Mr. Barton?
Here.
Ms. Pacala?
Here.
Ms. Walrath?
Here.
Ms. Gagliardi?
Here.
Ms. Hafner?
Here.
Mr. Lamella?
The New Jersey Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, Brick Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be posted on the Administration Office Bulletin Board, the official district website, and Channel BTV 20, and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Brick Times, the Star Ledger, and Municipal Clerk's Office.
Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion.
Second.
Whereas the Brick Township Board of Education has been formed pursuant to the applicable New Jersey statutes, and whereas the board is charged with the responsibility of performing all acts and doing all things consistent with law and the rules of the State Board of Education necessary for the lawful and proper conduct, equipment, and maintenance of the public schools and public school property of the Brick Township School District, and whereas Section 7 of the Open Public Meeting Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting of the board in certain circumstances, and whereas the board has determined that circumstances exist for such an executive session, and whereas the board has found the action described below to be necessary and proper, now therefore be it resolved by the board on May 11, 2017, that the board shall be excluded from the discussion of and the action on the executive session herein set forth. The session will be approximately 30 minutes, and the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is harassment, intimidation, and reports, litigation 8991, and BTASA negotiations. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter will be made public if and when it is deemed to be in the public interest to do so, and the need for confidentiality is no longer required by the board.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Pacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Ms. Gagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Hafner?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
We're going to start. Can I get a motion and a second to return to meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Mary?
Ms. Cantillo?
Here.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Pacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Ms. Gagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Hafner?
Yes.
Okay, can we,
Please stand for the salute to the flag, colors presented by the Air Force Junior ROTC.
Hope, center, face, present, arms.
Pledge allegiance.
Order, arms. Right, face. Forward, march.
If you can remain standing for a moment's silence. Thank you.
Mr. Gino?
Thank you, Mrs. Wilrab. We have a number of presentations that we want to start with, but why don't we begin with our student presentations. The student from Brick Memorial High School, Danielle Dyson. Danielle?
Thank you. I'm going to start by telling you guys a little bit about our spring sports. So our boys lacrosse team is currently 8-6 and has qualified for the Shore Conference Tournament for the second straight year in a row. Junior Joey Ferrara is 6 goals away from breaking the single-season goal record, and Gavin Murphy is 6 points away from the school record for most points scored during the season. This past weekend, the boys and girls track team has won a combined total of 29 medals at the Rowan University Open and Ocean County Relay Championships. With the end of their dual meet season, the teams are looking forward to the rest of their championship season in the next 3 weeks. And finally, our girls softball is 14-3 overall, placing second in our division. We have won the first round of the Ocean County tournament and are slated to begin in the state tournament very soon. And two of our seniors, Tori Lucarelli and Ali Amerzo, have surpassed the 100-hit milestone. On the other side of sports, today we began our park testing, which will run until March 19th, and our students are very well prepared and excited for the week of testing. And while park testing is beginning, we are wrapping up our stressful AP testing this week. Tomorrow is our last couple of tests, and students are anxiously awaiting their score reports, which will be released in July. Our ROTC was recently invited to the Military Order of the World Wars leadership conference, and they competed, and each person who competed won a cash scholarship. And then our student government held their annual Children of the Faculty Dance, where the theme was autism awareness, and we successfully raised over $700 for POAC, or the Parents of Autistic Children organization. And going along with that, Brick Memorial staff and students raised over $1,000 painting the school blue for autism throughout April, for a combined total of $1,700 for the POAC organization. Then our Pals and Key Club raised over $3,000 for the annual Urology and Kidney Walk on April 21st in Point Pleasant. And our Academic Challenge team, for the first time in the school's history, placed third in the U.S. History Invitational Tournament on April 26th at Donovan Catholic. And our most recent news tomorrow is our junior prom and the event center at I Play America. It should be a very wonderful event. Our theme is Galaxy, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And the student from Brick High School, Christian Brando. Christian?
Hi, my name is Christian Brando, and I am the Secretary of SGA at Brick Township High School. So in the past couple of weeks, on actually May 5th, our NHS helped with assisting the senior citizen prom, and that was a fun night of dancing with all the senior citizens, and everyone really enjoyed it, and they were greatly appreciative of everyone who showed up. And then our junior prom is next Friday, and all the juniors are extremely excited for what's to come for that, so we're all getting ready, and everyone has their tuxes and dresses ready. On May 25th and May 26th, we'll have our Military Appreciation Day and our Senior Awards Winners Ceremony. And basically, those are days where we honor the people who are entering the military and also honor students who have won awards. Next Thursday is our Acting for a Cause, and all the proceeds will go to Marie Costanza, who is one of the mothers here at the school who is unfortunately suffering from cancer. So we're hoping for a large turnout that will hopefully raise a lot of funds for them. Coming up June 1st and 2nd, we have Relay for Life, and all the teams have started getting money collected for the competitions there, and we're excited to see all the teams that joined this year. And on Earth Day, actually, we had the BTHS Green Team have all the classes around the school participate in a campus cleanup. And I don't know if you've seen it, but the mall has looked 10 times better now, and we are really excited about that because kids can now go to class out there, and it's great for the whole class. AP testing is also ending soon, so all of our students are extremely excited to take these exams after all of their hard work throughout the entire year. And park testing has started today, and we are hoping that everything continues to go by smoothly. Going on to sports, our boys lacrosse finished up their season, finished about 500, and our girls lacrosse will finish up their season with their senior night tomorrow. Our track team performed extremely well at Penn Relays, with the team placing third in their 4x4 relay, and we hope they continue to win their medals. And also, varsity baseball has qualified for the short conference tournament and has also won the Mayor's Cup against Brick Memorial at Lakewood Blue Cross Stadium. And finally, our varsity softball team today defeated Toms River South 10-0 in the first round of the Ocean County tournament. They will now take on Brick Memorial on Monday. That will be the second round, and we are hoping they win and continue their winning ways. And actually, last night, for the first time since 1991, our varsity softball team won the A-South overall. So we are extremely excited about that and are proud to see what they continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. And we thank both student representatives for giving up their time and coming on a regular basis. Christian has been here, I think, almost every meeting. He has beaten my record, so we thank them both, though, for the work that they do for us. Tonight's an exciting night. We're honoring the outstanding teachers and support staff that we have in our district. Every year we do this. We're happy to do it. There's a couple of exciting events coming up that we're going to continue to honor them as the month goes on. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. McNamara To start, ask Ms. Wolrapp and Ms. Pacala to come up and help her give out the awards. We have a number of things to give out, but I would want to encourage family members to come up and take pictures. This is a happy event. Don't be bashful. And looking at the size of the crowd, I might be sorry I've said this, but we hope that you come up and share their glory. Ms. McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Dillanella. Good evening. It's said that the single most important element in terms of affecting student achievement is the staff that students come in contact with every single day. In the Brick Township school system, we are extraordinarily appreciative of the talented and engaging staff that we have in all of our schools. Every year, we have the opportunity to select the most outstanding support staff member in each school and the most outstanding teacher. So this year, we have a group of staff that we're very excited to introduce to you this evening, and we're going to start the evening off with Dr. Caldez from Brick Memorial High School. Dr. Caldez?
Good evening, everybody. Brick Memorial High School is thrilled to celebrate Mrs. Patricia Cook as our support staff member of the year. Mrs. Cook is a guidance counselor and is being recognized for this honor as a result of her dedication, her passion, and most of all, her compassion for all people that she has come into contact with each and every day. Mrs. Cook is described by her colleagues as the glue that holds them all together. She knows how to bring a smile to somebody's face or brightens up a rainy day. Her laugh is contagious to all. Mrs. Cook, who has been a guidance counselor at Brick Memorial for many years, was also a science teacher here at Brick Township High School, and am sad but happy to say after 31 years, after June 19th, she will be retiring from the Brick Township School District, and we wish her the best of luck in retirement. She has made a great impact on many students, parents, community members for many, many years here in Brick Township. You will be missed very much. Mrs. Cook, come on up.
Congratulations.
Next, Brick Memorial High School is thrilled to celebrate Mrs. Maria DeBruin as our Teacher of the Year. Mrs. DeBruin teaches advanced placement chemistry and is being recognized for this honor. Determined, energetic, caring, and fair are the best words to describe Mrs. DeBruin as a teacher. She sets herself apart by consistently pursuing higher levels of achievement and never conforms to mediocrity. Mrs. DeBruin, who I said teaches AP Chemistry, is one of our hardest courses in our district. She has taken the program from having no students in it 3 years ago to now that we have 3 sections of AP Chemistry taught each and every day. Students flock to her classes despite being one of the most difficult. Mrs. DeBruin is one of the first teachers in our district to record her lectures each day and post them on Google Classroom so that students can go back, review, or students that missed that day can go in and not miss out on any of her instruction. Mrs. DeBruin has reached out to our community by creating a science night out, which is jam-packed at Brick Memorial every June. Mrs. DeBruin, congratulations. Come on up. I'd like to call up Janet Zarnecki, representing Lake Riviera Middle School.
Lake Riviera Middle School is happy to celebrate Rondi Pasquale as our support staff member of the year. When I think of a person who exemplifies what it means to be an effective guidance counselor, I think of Rondi Pasquale. He tirelessly collaborates with staff and parents with the goal of providing students with a successful and enjoyable middle school experience. His caring and empathetic demeanor allows him to reach all students. In addition, Ron goes above and beyond his call of duty by spearheading programs that help our students, our school, and the community at large. From coordinating the 8th grade career fair to facilitating our school safety drills to assisting veterans on GI Go Jeans Day, he always exceeds its expectations. Never without a smile on his face, Ron spreads positivity and light everywhere he goes. Congratulations, Ron. Come on down. Lake Riviera Middle School is thrilled to celebrate Gary Paxson as our Teacher of the Year. If you know Gary, you know that this man wears many hats. He is not only our school STEM teacher, but an advisor, an activist, and our school CISOP. Circumspect and practical, humble and patient, Gary is always there to help a colleague or student in need. His dedication to his craft enables him to successfully reach every student, no matter their age, academic ability, or personality. As such, he is one of the most popular teachers at Lake. In addition, he has been awarded numerous grants, making his STEM classroom one of the most advanced in the district. This year, Gary was honored with Brick Township's Hero Award, and we are thrilled to be able to call him our own Laker hero. Thank you, Gary, for everything you have done for our school. Come on down. I'd like to welcome Renee Katsianis.
Thank you. Good evening. Veterans Memorial Middle School is thrilled to celebrate Christine Tassillo as our Support Staff Member of the Year. Christine is a paraprofessional in one of our special needs classrooms and is being recognized for this honor as a result of her sincere and genuine affection for the students with autism that she works with every day. She is caring and nurturing and treats her students respectfully with patience and affection. Chris has been known to even buy them special treats when they go on their weekly community trips. Her colleagues describe her as someone who comes to work every day with a smile on her face, rarely complains about anything, and is just happy, eager, and appreciative to just have the opportunity to work with students. And most importantly is what her students say about her. When I asked, they said, "Ms. Tassillo is very nice, she's sweet, and she really helps me in whatever I need to do." Congratulations, Chris, on this well-deserved recognition. Unfortunately, she's not able to be with us this evening. But Veterans Memorial Middle School is thrilled to celebrate Mary Colleen Foley as our Teacher of the Year. Mary Colleen is one of our art teachers and is being recognized for this honor as a result of her energy, school spirit, and her incredible dedication to not only her art students, but the entire student body and faculty at VMMS. She's passionate in her desire to have her students in her art class understand that although they may not feel confident in their artistic talents, they are capable of creating their own personal masterpieces, which are proudly displayed throughout our building. Her colleagues describe Mary Colleen as extremely helpful, organized, and the go-to person that will persevere until she finds a solution to any problems. There are no hurdles that would prevent Mary Colleen from accomplishing the goals she has set for herself and for the good of Veterans Memorial Middle School. My administrative colleagues and I are extremely appreciative for everything she has done as a member of our school climate committee. She has devoted countless hours and energy developing programs and activities to make Vets Middle School a warm and welcoming environment for our students and staff. Mary Colleen serves as our athletic coordinator and the coach of our girls' basketball team, which I am proud to say has had a tremendous winning season. This has been an amazing year for Mary Colleen. Not only is she our Teacher of the Year, she recently completed her master's degree in educational leadership and is the proud new mommy of her first baby, Patrick John, who's sitting in the back with Daddy. Congratulations, Mary Colleen. I'm so sorry. I'd like to introduce Mrs. Coddington from Drum Point Elementary School.
The Drum Point Elementary School is thrilled to celebrate Tammy Scott as our Support Staff Member of the Year. Mrs. Scott is a physical therapist and is being recognized for this honor because her devotion and passion contributes to her successfully improving her students' well-being and quality of life. Mrs. Scott is extremely generous with her time and gives extra sessions to students who need more assistance. She is a team player and works diligently with teachers to plan for appropriate equipment and exercises that may be used within the classroom. Mrs. Scott creatively designs her therapy sessions to motivate students to stay engaged and complete their routines and exercises. She is a true professional that fosters an organized and positive environment. She promotes practices that help students and families of all backgrounds with special health and therapy concerns feel welcome and appreciated. And we appreciate you, Mrs. Scott. Come forward, please. The Drum Point Elementary School is delighted to celebrate Joylyn Grace as our Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Grace is a special education teacher and is being recognized for this honor because she is a dedicated professional who creates a safe environment where students feel comfortable, and each day they show that they love coming to school. Mrs. Grace greets her students every day with a warm smile and a kind word. Her students consistently work on tasks and meet with success on a daily basis. Mrs. Grace structures her lessons so that each student's individual needs are met. She is truly an advocate for all of her students. Our Teacher of the Year, Joylyn Grace, has a unique ability to encourage her students to work independently and as a group. Most importantly, she motivates her students to be lifelong learners. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce, representing Emma Havens Young Elementary School, Mrs. Pat LaRusso.
Okay, tag team there. Thanks, Lynn. Okay, Emma Havens is thrilled to celebrate and honor Monique Sheridan as this year's Support Staff Member of the Year. Monique is a school psychologist and a case manager. She is recognized for her dedication to the special education students in our school. She is always efficient, effective, and extremely thorough. Monique makes herself available to students, staff, parents, and administration, giving us all sound advice for the good of the student. Congratulations to Monique for an outstanding job that she does each and every day. Oh, Emmy has to join me. Come on. Emma Havens is once again thrilled and honored to recognize Katie Foreman as this year's Teacher of the Year. Katie teaches 4th grade at Emma Havens. She is always compassionate to all of her students. Her lessons are always innovative, and she's a true professional. I call upon Katie often to provide professional development for many of our staff members. Students in Katie's class benefit from her keen teaching skills and her ability to engage her class every single day. Katie is a true master at her craft. Congratulations to Katie for a job well done each and every day. And that's Emmy. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Miss Bonnie Giles, principal of Herbertsville Elementary.
Hello, everyone. Herbertsville Elementary School is thrilled to celebrate Mrs. Mary Ellen Nicolosi as our Support Staff Member of the Year. Mrs. Nicolosi is a paraprofessional in 1st grade this year and is being recognized for this honor as a result of her consistent dedication to the students, staff, and the community. Mrs. Nicolosi is a hardworking individual, often keeping steps ahead of the needs of her students. Mrs. Nicolosi is an energetic, compassionate professional who goes the extra mile to enhance learning for all of the students every day. Congratulations, Mrs. Nicolosi. Herbertsville Elementary School is thrilled to celebrate Mrs. Deborah Osborne as our Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Osborne teaches kindergarten and is being recognized for this honor as a result of her 25 years of service as an exemplary teacher who inspires and motivates her students to engage in the learning process each and every day. Mrs. Osborne is one of Herbertsville's Early Act advisors. Her 5th grade Early Act Club has been very successful with raising awareness of those that are less fortunate and have supported many charitable organizations over the course of the year. Mrs. Osborne serves on multiple school committees and often offers her expertise and her ideas to fellow colleagues to help enhance learning for all students. She's an active PTA member, and she regularly attends after-school events. Mrs. Osborne is a dedicated and valued member of Herbertsville Elementary School. Congratulations, Mrs. Osborne, our Sunshine Teacher of the Year. At this time, it gives me great honor to introduce Mr. Jeff Luckenbach, the principal of Lanes Mill Elementary School.
Good evening, everyone. The Lanes Mill Elementary School is thrilled to celebrate Deborah Robertson as our Support Staff Member of the Year. Mrs. Robertson is a learning consultant and case manager for our school, our child study team, and she's being recognized for this honor as a result of many years and dedication to many schools throughout the township of Brick. And she also serves the special needs of our students in our building. Her passion for helping the students progress, guiding parents through the programs, and providing resources for our teachers is truly remarkable. Her ability to communicate with all members of our community has clearly strengthened our school's special education department. However, the entire school community has clearly benefited from her expertise. She's also been an active member of many of the schools and district's initiatives, and her selfless acts really permeate our community, for which we are truly grateful. Please congratulate with me Mrs. Robertson. And now the Lanes Mill Elementary School is thrilled to celebrate Mr. Raymond Giordano as our Teacher of the Year. Mr. Giordano teaches 5th grade, and he's being recognized for this honor as a result of his relentless service to the students and staff of Lanes Mill. That seems like a very vague statement, but to anyone who knows Mr. Giordano, it's clearly his dedication and his steadiness which has really benefited our school. He is an exceptional instructor, and his efforts have led to many innovative programs. Outside of the academics, he had a club for Lego robotics, which might be a new program, Mr. Philippone, and also stock market competitions for his students, which I'm still waiting for tips, Mr. Giordano. No help here. But also, his extra dedication to community is really what sets Mr. Giordano apart. He leads our green team, and that initiative has really taken strong at Lanes Mill. We are looking for our bronze recognition. We're trying to accumulate points, but it's his dedication to help out with that conservation project is truly outstanding. However, it's also his efforts with Sandy Scassel that really separates Mr. Giordano. His dedication to helping out with that program many years ago, and his connection with Ed Jarrett really opened the door for our school and our community to really help those who are victimized by Hurricane Sandy. Nobody asked for him to help. Nobody asked for him to really give as much time as he does, but he does so without much fanfare. Well, tonight, Mr. Giordano, here's your fanfare. Congratulations on Teacher of the Year. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. John Billen, the principal at Midstreams Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. Midstreams is proud to celebrate Mrs. Michelle Larson as our Support Staff Member of the Year. Michelle is our school social worker and a member of the Child Study Team. She is a consummate professional, a hard worker, and a collaborative member of the school staff. She is always willing to help in any capacity and never shies away from a challenging situation. She's a great confidant and a huge help, especially to the principal. She's admired and respected by all students and staff and a valuable member of the Midstreams community. Congratulations, Mrs. Michelle Larson. Midstreams is also very proud to celebrate Mrs. Nancy McKenzie as our Teacher of the Year. Nancy is a 4th grade teacher who is highly devoted and a dedicated professional who firmly believes in reflective practice and giving her very best to her students. She is our resident math guru and is always willing to talk instructional practice and strategies. She is very highly respected amongst parents and staff and students and is very deserving of this award. Congratulations, Mrs. McKenzie. would now like to invite up Mrs. Kathy D. Grigoli, principal of Osborne Elementary School.
Good evening, everyone. The Osborneville School is thrilled to celebrate Miss Candy Rivera as our support staff member of the year. Ms. Rivera is a media specialist and is being honored as a result of her support and dedication to all members of our school community. In the words of just one of her colleagues, Candy motivates her students to partake in lessons by engaging them through the use of varied library tools. She is a technological expert. When I asked the many students in our building about Ms. Rivera, some comments included, she is trustworthy, Ms. Rivera is always kind, she is amazing, and she truly cares about us. We always leave the library with a smile. Thank you, Ms. Rivera, for your support and dedication to all members of our school community and for all those smiles you give us. Come on up, Candy. The Osborneville School is thrilled to celebrate Mrs. Fran Capicello as our Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Capicello is an ESL teacher and is being honored as a result of her dedication and support to all members of our school community. In the words of one of her colleagues, Fran loves her job and does it well. The teachers with whom she works all recognize her teaching expertise and efforts, but she always manages to make everything she does look so easy. In the words of some of her students, she is nice, Mrs. Capicello is cool, she's respectful, she helps all the kids and is always happy. Mrs. Capicello is a good citizen who helps us learn English. Thank you, Mrs. Capicello, for your support and dedication to all members of our school community. Come on up. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Mrs. Colleen Kerr, the principal of Vets Elementary School.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure that the Veterans Memorial Elementary School celebrate Jennifer Holland as our Educational Services Professional of the Year. Jen is our school counselor and is being recognized for this honor because she is always ready to extend a helping hand, a listening ear, or a warm smile. She spends countless hours performing her counseling duties and also still finds time to volunteer to facilitate our CAST after-school outreach program, and she is now directing our annual Relay for Life talent show. Jen is a dedicated, caring professional who strives to better the lives of the students and families of VMES every day. Congratulations, Jennifer Holland. Veterans Memorial Elementary School is thrilled to celebrate Michelle Fritz as our Teacher of the Year. Michelle teaches second grade and is being recognized for this honor because she is loving and nurturing, but has firm boundaries and high expectations for her students. Students say that she's excellent at explaining difficult math problems. I believe them. And she's great at helping us organize our thoughts when we're writing. Michelle, I personally appreciate Michelle's class every morning. They're right next door to me, and they sing, "I'm proud to be an American." I want to join in with them. They sound so great. But most importantly, Michelle is a strong role model who faced her own personal illness and took that opportunity to teach tolerance and understanding to her students. She is an inspiration to all of us. Congratulations, Michelle Frist. I'd like to introduce the principal of Warren Wolf Elementary School, Mr. Ron Gerlofson.
Good evening. I'm honored to present Magda Diaz as Warren Wolf Elementary School Support Staff Member of the Year. Magda is a professional that wears many hats for our district, school, and community. She is our district volunteer coordinator, community liaison, and district Spanish interpreter. Job description boundaries are no obstacles for Magda's work ethic. She has a spirit of all that is good in the world. Mrs. Diaz's passion for the good of our community is evident as she reaches out to people in need. Besides her diligent work ethic and dedication to her job responsibilities, she has dedicated her time to many projects that include our school coat drive, Thanksgiving meal basket, holiday gifts, and food for families of need, just to mention a few. Mrs. Diaz is the kind of person that will step up to the plate to help our school in any way she is qualified. This year, she was also honored as our Hero Award recipient for our town. Congratulations to Magda Diaz, our Warren Wolf Elementary School Support Staff Member of the Year. I am honored to present Mrs. Julie Yost as a Warren Wolf Elementary School Teacher of the Year. She is a kindergarten LLD teacher who represents the proud and outstanding faculty of our school. Julie is a special teacher. She is popular with students, families, and colleagues. Here are a few of the reasons why. Julie's students respond so well to her because she is kind, loving, fun, and cares about them. She gets to know each student in her classroom as a whole person and is able to see exactly what each child brings to the classroom community. Mrs. Yost's entire teaching approach involves finding and using children's unique strengths to help them overcome their struggles and help them to develop their potential with a positive self-image. Julie's teaching techniques represent her passion for academic success. She incorporates strategies that are specifically designed to meet the needs of each one of her students. Mrs. Yost is a magician in the classroom, creating strategies that will meet the needs of all her learners. I am proud to congratulate Mrs. Yost, our Warren H. Wolf Teacher of the Year. I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Kleisler, principal of Brick High School.
Thank you, Ms. Gerlison. I'd like to begin by saying congratulations to all of the support staff members of the year and the teachers of the year. Today, Brick Township High School is very thrilled to present for our support staff member of the year to Ms. Marie Walling. Mrs. Walling came to us about 4 years ago. She is a teacher in our guidance department. She is part of a very hardworking department here at Brick Township High School. For those of my colleagues that are administrators in the building, I think you would agree, your guidance department is probably the most important department you're going to have in the building. There are many needs that students are confronted with outside of the educational setting, and Mrs. Walling has excelled in this role here at Brick Township High School. I've been very proud to work with her over the last 4 years. She has taken it upon herself to target a couple of different programs that I would like to make of note to you, which are reasons why she is being honored with this award tonight. Number one, Mrs. Walling has brought to us the recognition of a military day at Brick Township High School we have done for the last several years. It has truly become one of the highlights of the school year. We would not have been celebrating it if it wouldn't have been for the choice of Mrs. Walling a couple years ago. Thank you for that. We also have been honored to have many AP classes here at Brick Township High School and nearly doubled the enrollment in the AP courses. We are finishing, as both of the students from Brick Township Memorial have noted, we are finishing our AP exams tomorrow. It is quite extensive. It is yeoman's work. I am glad I am not someone that has to be in charge of it, and I have someone like Maria to do that. You've done quite a bit to get our students prepared where they have been able to excel with that test, and I thank you for that. One of the other categories that she took upon herself to be in charge of is aiding and assisting our homeless students from Brick Township High School. She did this on her own. She went out and encumbered some of the funds that are available to provide clothing, food, other needs for students in the building, and she works it like a little store in her office on her free time, helping the students in Brick Township High School. One of the most rewarding moments I've had this year at the high school is around the holidays in December, when we found out that we had many, many, many more students than we thought we had, whose families were having very little to celebrate for the holidays. Again, Mrs. Walling took it upon herself to seek out who those students were, provide some much-needed holiday celebration, whether it was food or presents or other sources. Again, working like a little shop in her office, the guidance department rallied around her needs, and we were able to supply a very nice setting for a number of families here at Brick Township High School. With no further ado, I'd like to bring up to the podium Ms. Maria Walling, Brick Township High School Support Staff Member of the Year. I found out two things tonight that I didn't know as I was getting ready to make my awards. Mrs. Walling, before she came to us, was the Teacher of the Year in her previous school district, so we'll have to add support staff to your display somewhere at home. The next person that I'm calling up to the podium, I was not aware that this person was also a Teacher of the Year in her previous district. So there must be something that they're doing right, and they have not lost the fire or the desire to be all you are in education. It gives me great pleasure and an honor to present to you not just the Brick Township High School Teacher of the Year, but Brick Township Public Schools Teacher of the Year, and Miss Meredith Hudson. When an administrator has an opportunity to hire somebody, you often hope the person across the table from you is someone that inspires you and makes you realize they have the characteristics that you're looking for in that person. that they're just the perfect person that you need to hire. You have to have them here, and there's no way you can say no to them. After they're working for you for several years, you hope they still possess that. I'm pleased to say that Meredith still possesses all of the things that we were looking for just after Sandy when she came back here to Brick Township High School to be an art teacher. Meredith has a passion for, exceptional knowledge of, and a desire to share her area of expertise. She's an excellent artist herself. In the classroom, she has inspired her students to do awesome work, not just in her classroom, but in the other teachers in Brick Township High School. Their work is often displayed on our website, outside the auditorium, and in the public setting. She's worked with community organizations, just got done doing a project to redo a clubhouse with some military decorations and paintings that would not have been done if it was not for her selfless efforts and recruitment of some of her students to do so. Meredith has energized her department. Teaching photography and some of the other upper-level art classes, she has rubbed off on the rest of her department. I'm pleased to say that one of the other things you look for when hiring someone is the ability to inspire others, not just the students. Miss Hudson's classroom is kind of the epicenter now at Brick Township High School. It seems to be if something is going to be proposed, suggested, or you need to get it done, it either starts in Mrs. Hudson's classroom or it ends there. She is a class advisor. She's probably the most spirited person at Brick Township High School. She's a coach. Her fundraising for her class, I'm not quite so sure, but I don't know if the students are going to have to pay for their ball bids or prom bids if she doesn't slow down a little bit in her fundraising efforts. All right? Anyone that can energize the group of students that she has must be doing something right. As I mentioned before, she has a willingness to help others. Those of you in education, I'm sure you can recognize when someone comes in to do professional development or share or open their classroom to you, when they truly have a passion and an ability to tell you or teach you something you didn't know. Mrs. Hudson has that ability. She is a lifelong learner. She continues to go to school to improve herself educationally and to understand the entire building in a global sense. I have no doubt that we're going to continue to see great things from Ms. Hudson. It gives me great pleasure to call up to the podium to receive her award, Brick Township High School Public Schools Teacher of the Year, Ms. Meredith Hudson.
Thank you. Good evening. So when they came to my classroom, they told me that I was going to have a moment to say a little something, and in typical fashion, I'm going over in my mind, thinking about what am I going to say? Should I write it down? How long should it be? But the fact of the matter is, in years of coaching and doing banquets, you realize that it's much easier. You can write it all down, but if you just speak from here, it'll translate a lot better. So with that being said, I think that this is a wonderful tradition, Teacher of the Year. It's a celebration of not just any individual, but of everyone who's dedicated their lives to education. In some capacity, those that are in this room, whether they're in the classroom or not, they started in the classroom. And I think that speaks volumes about those that are vested in their community. I was eager to come back here. I started my career 10 years ago in another district, but I really wanted to come back to Brick Township. I grew up here. There's a sense of pride here, and I just know that the support and great things can be achieved by the students and the individuals who are currently working in the district. I owe a great deal to those students who keep me in check every day by giving me their perspective on life, the mentors that I've had,
and also to the colleagues that I have that continue to inspire me. A lot has changed in the last 10 years, but I can say that if you're in it for the right reasons. And I truly believe that. I enjoy coming to work each and every day, and I hope that that continues. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the administrators who got up this evening and spoke so eloquently about your support staff members and the Teachers of the Year. Can we give them a round of applause? We would very much like to get one group picture, so if I could have all of the support staff members line up in front of the dais, and then all of the Teachers of the Year line up in front of them. We'll grab one quick picture, and yes, you can applaud them as they come up. Each teacher received a bag that was decorated for them, and I'd like to recognize Heather DeCondi from Lake Riviera Middle School, our teacher who does those bags for us every single year out of the goodness of her heart. So once again, can we have all of the support staff members in front of the dais and then all of the Teachers of the Year in front of them, and we will grab a quick picture.
How you doing? Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think they want the support staff in back and the teachers in front.
Or wherever you.
Sorry. Trying to put a roadblock on the bridge. I hope these staff members at least get a dinner out of this, so why don't we take a few-minute break and let people either stay or decide to leave if they want. We'll pick up the board meeting. Thank you and congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Mine lived with me until he was 4. He's going to be...
If I may begin, Ms. Warab?
We're ready?
Okay, yeah. We have another presentation under Curriculum Instruction. Item 9 talks about the 17-18 redistricting plan and map. Mr. Philippone has a short presentation on that, and he can go over a little bit about the process that we used and the recommendation made by the committee. Mr. Philippone.
Thank you, Mr. Gianella. I just want to start by, first of all, thanking Mrs. McNamara for all the work that she did to help me through this process, to Mr. Lamella and Mrs. Gagliardi for their work on the committee as board members, Dr. Caldez, Mr. Kleisler, Dr. Billen, and Jim Edwards, who served on the committee, all of the PTA presidents that came out and organized meetings so that we could get the message out and get the input of the public. Certainly the principals involved, Ms. Kerr, Ms. Giles, and Dr. Billen, and most importantly, all the parents that took the time to come out and get involved in the process. The reason for the redistricting plan is to reduce overcrowding at Veterans Memorial Elementary School and to provide for more equalized class sizes across the elementary division. This was really a matter of geography. There just was, although we know that we have declining enrollments in the district, the veteran sending area was not declining. As a matter of fact, there was some growth in that area, so we had to address that. So here's what we did. We wanted to be as transparent as possible. And we began with a committee of administrators, Board of Education members, and we met 4 times to discuss the redistricting plan and the demographer's report. We then held a stakeholders meeting with all of the PTA presidents, the principals, and the Board of Education members to discuss what at that time was a very, very basic plan that we were using as a baseline. From that meeting, the PTA presidents all suggested that we meet with the individual PTAs at the 3 affected buildings. So we held meetings at night, which were all very, very well attended by both staff and parents at Veterans, Herbertsville, and Midstreams. After all of those PTA meetings, we wanted to give the public one last opportunity to come out, see the plan, make their comments and suggestions, and we held a meeting that was also very well attended at Vets Elementary School on April 24th. So the plan is as follows. Veterans Elementary School will lose 64 students. Herbertsville Elementary School will gain 18. Midstreams Elementary School will receive 46. These are the affected street locations. So if in fact your son or daughter were to live on one of these streets, and this covers both areas that are involved in the redistricting, they would be moving from either, from Vets to either Midstreams or Herbertsville. And this is the actual reduction by grade level. In kindergarten, where Vets would be losing 10 students, first grade 12, second grade 11, third grade 7, fourth grade 13, and fifth grade 11 for a total of 64 students. From Vets to Herbertsville, you can see the numbers, 3, 3, 2, 2, 4, and 4 for a total of 18 students. Going from Veterans to Midstreams, 7 kindergartners, 9 first, 9 second, 5 third, 9 fourth, and 7 fifth for a total of 46. Now these are the actual class sizes for next year at all of the schools. And you can see that even with the movement of students, there are still some large numbers. The 4th grade at Veterans is 25. The 3rd grade at Herbertsville is 25, and that is because every grade level at Herbertsville has 2 sections other than the 3rd grade. That is only 1 section. So next year, when they move forward, the 4th grade will there'll be 2 sections, and the average class size in the 4th grade will be 12. But the thing that we really looked for was averaging the class sizes by section for all 3 buildings, and the plan worked pretty well to do that. The average class size at Vets is 21.2, the average size at Midstreams is 19.3, and the average size at Herbertsville is 21.4. Redistricting plan, special circumstances, understanding that young people and parents certainly develop a bond with the school, and it's very strong at the elementary level. We wanted to allow current 3rd and 4th graders at Vets affected by the plan to stay at Veterans if their parents make a written request to the superintendent and are willing to provide transportation. That's not to say that we're going to say no to anybody. And I had this conversation with Mr. Gellinella just today. If in fact the parent is willing to transport their son or daughter and they do put that request in writing, those requests will be approved. Are there any questions? You want to take them at this time or during curriculum instruction?
Well, we have a
Mr. Gellinella?
curriculum instruction section, but right now, any questions from the board?
No, thank you.
I thank Mr. Filippone and Ms. McNamara and the committee for all the work. You know, change is difficult. I understand that the change of schools, whenever you're talking about any student, it's a difficult thing to do, sometimes more difficult for the parents than the student. But I think it's important that we take this small step, and believe me, it is a small step, to try to equalize our class size. I don't think people realize that this year, in kindergarten and third grade, once we opened up and saw the class sizes, any new students coming in were being bused to another school anyway because we couldn't fit them anymore. I think we have to take some steps to solve that issue. I think we've taken an incremental step here. Look into the future. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think this solves the problem for the present and moving forward as we can see, and then we see where the growth and the loss is in the future and if we need to do anything else. But I recommend this to the board tonight for the redistricting plan, and we'll have an opportunity for the community and board members to ask a question again. Thank you, Mr. Filippone.
Thank you, Mr. Gianelli.
And Mrs. Wolrath, back to you.
We're going to do it.
We are going to do it under curriculum instruction where it's voted, if that's okay.
I need approval of minutes. I need a motion and a second.
Motion?
Second.
Board discussion? None?
Ms. Cantillo?
I have to abstain on 1, 2, and 3.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Wolrath?
Yes.
Ms. Gagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Hefner?
Yes.
Okay, committee reports. Curriculum and instruction?
Excuse me, Mrs. Wolrath? I have a question. All of these committees are meeting, our curriculum and instruction, finance, facilities. Are you sending out agendas and minutes? Because I haven't received any.
Agendas and minutes are going out. There was an issue, some confusion between myself and, I'm sorry. There was some confusion on the Finance Committee meetings. I had a family member that I was dealing with, and my life was a little hectic. I got the minutes for approval. I thought I sent it back to approve. I did not. So they went out just right before the meeting. When I walked in, he grabbed me and said, so that was my fault. My apologies that you didn't
Thank you.
receive that.
I appreciate
I did
that.
see everything else going out, and I've received the agendas as well as the minutes. So if you're having a problem, maybe we...
I have not received any minutes.
Okay, well then we'll have to look into that for you.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Curriculum and instruction?
Thank you. We met just yesterday on curriculum and instruction. We talked a little bit about Camp Invention that's going to take place this summer, and we'll see more about that in the curriculum and instruction area, but it will be for students entering kindergarten through 6th grade. It's a wonderful program. I gave the Curriculum and Instruction Committee an update on our testing. We finished elementary schools and middle schools for Park, and we're beginning the high school spring administration of Park. We began it today. We also talked a little bit about the technology survey that took place in district. We had 1,400 responses, both combined from online and paper. It was a very positive response in terms of the number of different types of technology that students and parents have in their hands and access to the internet. So we were pleased with those findings.
Thank you. Thank you.
Finance, Mr. Edwards?
Thank you, Ms. Walrab. The Finance Committee met on May 1st. The issues that were discussed were the Pharmacy Benefit Manager Analyst. The proposals were due back on May 3rd. We only received one response, and the response received upon review by the Board Attorney was deemed to be non-compliant, so it has been rejected. It will be discussed at our next Finance Committee on how we're going to proceed. We discussed the 2017-18 budget. Also discussed the BEST program 2017-18 budget and the cafeteria program 2017-18 budget, which are both on the agenda for this evening. We noted that the cafeteria budget includes a 5-cent per grade level price increase, and provided the committee with the details on when the last price increase was and what the state minimum for lunch and breakfast are. We also discussed the competitive contracting for property and casualty, excluding workman's compensation, and competitive contracting for workman's compensation brokers. Both of those responses are due back on May 24th, and we hope to have an award ready for the board on June 1st. We discussed that the RFP for pediatric neurology, OT, PT, and speech, and psychiatrist are coming to the end of their 3-year solicitation period, and so therefore we're going to be doing another triannual solicitation for those 3 services.
Thank you. Is that it? Thank you. Facilities, Mr. Barton?
Facilities met on May 2nd. We have we have about 6 projects in the works right now. The big ones would be the Veterans Memorial, Veterans Elementary School parking lot, the Brick Township High School East parking lot improvement, also have Brick High School track, Warren H. Wolf School roof, and we have something else in the works with Lake Riviera Middle School with lintels. We discussed trying to get the work done on the windows project, going through the punch list that we have created punch lists, and either the work isn't done or there were things that should have been on the punch list that were never included to begin with. So the windows project is still open, as is the boiler project at Brick High School. The boiler was installed properly according to specs, and I tried to make this point at the last meeting also, and there's nothing wrong with the boiler. The boiler was installed according to specs. However, in the plans there were certain parts missing to the boiler system. It has to have a monitor because of the type of boiler that it is. So we need to get that project finished and out of the way. Project that's in the works that I missed is the high school gym at Brick Memorial was destroyed immediately after it was replaced by a leaky pipe from a air conditioning system, and that's going to be worked on starting June 20th. Emergency lighting project is done. We're waiting for inspections to happen. Lead testing is looking to finish at the end of May. The results of all the lead testing is on the website daily, and I think we've been pretty good with the results of those tests. Any work that had to be done was already done. Safety grant safety grant is coming to Brick Township. Mr. Gianella is going to take charge of the safety grant. We're going to have a new gas line installed at Lake Riviera Middle School. We have, let me see, big project, solar panel project. It's been a great project. It's the construction has gone well. Work is being done while students are in school, so we didn't have to wait for summer to come. And at the finish of some of the projects with the installing the solar panels, we have created leaks in the roof. So now we're as a committee looking at how to resolve fixing the little hot spots that were created by the installation of the solar panels. So I would end with the lintel issue, Lake Riviera Middle School. The committee discussed while we were inspecting the windows, because the windows wouldn't open in certain areas, they were installed directly behind storm gutters. So if you went to open the window, there was something in the way, it just wouldn't open. So when the architects went out with some of the administration and facilities chair people, facilities directors, they noticed rust marks on the walls behind the windows. So just by observing, it looks like there could possibly be rust damage to lintels, which are structural supports in the ceiling area at Lake Riviera. In order to see what is going on, it's been determined that there has to be a plan to open up, take out some windows and open up some of the walls. It's destructive investigation, they're calling it. And it involves opening holes about maybe 5 feet wide and actually seeing whether the lintels have been damaged or not. So with that, after inspection, we would get a report and see what would cause a rust mark. But the discussion started, why were the windows put in on top of these rust marks? And why wouldn't that have been looked at prior to making a project that nobody really knows why the windows were done to begin with? So on the agenda tonight, looking for approval, operations is looking for numbers 20 to 23 to approve the projects of the track and the roof, and also numbers 30 to 32. Thank you.
Thank you. Human Resources, Ms. McCullough?
Everything is, what is the word we use, standard? And if anybody has any questions, we'll entertain them later.
Okay. Policy? Mr. Philippon?
Thank you, Mrs. Gagliardi. The good news is that this week we received all of the updated policies from New Jersey school boards. They come in series, and they go all the way up to the 9,000 series. We are moving slowly through the process so that we really can take a look at the policies. So tonight, we have one policy just in case, because usually they go in, the numbers go in order. We have a policy on administering medication. And the reason that policy is on tonight's agenda is because the entire county of Ocean in all high schools are now, they're not hopefully never having to dispense, but our nurses and our SAC, student assistance counselors, have Narcan on hand in our high schools. So in order to facilitate that process, we needed to have a board policy, and that's why that one is kind of out of order, Mrs. Gagliardi. But I thank Mrs. Gagliardi and Mr. Lamella for working through these, entire board for looking at these policies. So we'll be recommending those policies when it comes to that point. Thank you.
Thank you. We already heard from demographics. Mr. Gino?
Thank you, Mrs. Wilrab. Just a few things, and I'm piggybacking on what Mr. Philippone said about the drug overdoses in Ocean County, and I attended with Mr. Philippone a task force meeting that Brick Township is going to be part of. And our prosecutor, Mr. Coronado, has been a state leader in this area, and we will join that task force and review different statistics that are going on. He picked Brick Township to be part of that task force because, unfortunately, we have a high instance of overdosing, and that's not something we want to be on top of on that list, but we will start working with that task force soon with the many other projects that we're doing. I had the honor of attending a workshop from Ocean County College, Dr. Jackson, on college readiness to a lot of our staff members. We are working with Ocean County College and starting a partnership with Ocean County College, and the end result of that partnership, we hope, will soon be a college academy where our students can take at a reduced rate for parents college courses while they're in high school, and eventually be able to graduate high school and get their AA degree also. I had the honor of attending a grand opening at Edmund Havens Young. Ms. Gagliardi, thank you for coming. For the movement classroom, it was a grant that Emma Havens Young won, $10,000, was it? $10,000 grant for a movement classroom. If you really have to see it to believe it. They even had me sit on a ball, which is like a seat. A little unsure about that, but I'm sure the students like it. But there are a whole lot of things going on in that classroom that the classroom will be shared among many classes, and students are active while they're learning, and it has some great results, and I thank Ms. LaRussa for coming up with that idea with her staff and working on that and winning that grant. And I also had the honor of attending You know, Ocean First gives this grant out for a number of years, and about 10 years back, I was on the committee that helped create kind of the outline for this model classroom grant. And Pat, how many years has Emma Havens won it? Oh, she won 4.
Lati, right?
Oh, so you won 4. I thought Emma Havens won 4. Okay. So we have to change you to another school if we want the grant to go to another school? I had the honor at Vets Middle School this week of meeting again with Congressman Tom MacArthur. Congressman MacArthur supports a program, the stock market game, which teaches students about the stock market and gets them involved in that. He's a big sponsor of the program. For the last 2 years, we've had the honor of hosting Congressman MacArthur, and let me tell you, I'm impressed by the congressman because he comes and he spends about an hour with students talking a little bit about his business experience and talking a little bit about some of the things that he does in Congress, and then spent about a half hour talking to students with their questions. And they had prepared questions, and really, Mrs. Riley, the teacher, did an outstanding job, but the students really made us proud, and the congressman was very impressed, but we thank him for coming. And last, I'm sure some members will mention this in their talk perhaps, but Brick Township has their Wall of Fame dinner on Wednesday the 17th. It's an annual dinner, honors outstanding alumni from the Brick High School community, and we're looking forward to another outstanding dinner on Wednesday the 17th. Ms. Rolrath.
Thank you. Curriculum and instruction, Ms. McNamara.
Thank you, Mrs. Walrath. Under curriculum and instruction, the interim superintendent recommends the board approve the following items 1 through 9.
I need a motion and a second.
I make that motion.
Second. Board discussion?
I have a discussion question, not to prolong it, but the redistricting plan was done by a demographer. Was there one demographer that helped finalize the plan, or has this been something that was looked at prior to having this demography study?
The demography study was across the district and talked about different areas of the district. He was not part of the redistricting plan itself. What the committee did was take that report that the demographer gave us and try to address some of the concerns in the report. That answer your question, Ms. Martin?
Well, I think my point was, we spent some money on a demographer study that I remember, and I didn't hear or I didn't see this particular demography expense. But I feel as if we spent that money and it helps to put this plan together, that it might be a good reason to make the plan work this time, rather than have to repeat. Because I believe when they redistricted the kindergarten classes, they spent $18,000 to have somebody help them put those children into the schools around town. So I know demography studies are expensive, and I know that we are crunched with the population at the school, Veterans Elementary School. So I'd like to see that work. And yes, you did answer my question.
Any other board questions? Public comment? Yep.
Thanks. Good evening. Karen Cusinelli, 113 Duchess Lane. First, I had a question was, how could we have items on the agenda if the CNI committee only met yesterday?
I believe, are you talking?
I'm sorry, could you pull that closer?
You're talking about the districting, that was something that was...
No, all of it. If the committee only met yesterday, but the board receives the agenda on Friday, and it was released to the public Tuesday night, how could there be items on CNI if there was only a meeting held of the committee yesterday?
If I may, most of the items on CNI are routine, workshop, student placements.
Right.
Calendar was something that we had discussed with the board before that, or most board members before that. Camp Invention was already discussed with the CNI for a couple of months, really leading into it. So most of this is routine. What the CNI committee has done in the past is talk about test scores, talk about upcoming things that we're talking about in the coming budget, in the coming year, things like that. So it doesn't have to pertain just to this agenda.
And then the rest of the board members will receive the committee minutes and information after tonight?
In this case, yes, because it's usually held the week before the meeting, but we had a scheduling conflict that we had to do it late.
Okay, thank you. What was the reason why we changed the meeting from June 8th to June 1st?
Scheduling conflict with a number of people.
Okay, thank you. The alcohol EDU program, is there any cost to the district for that program?
Mr. Philippone, we've had this before, but is there any cost for us?
Mr. Gianella, I will check, but my recollection is that no, it is not. There is no cost to the district. It is a program that's funded by the Ocean County Health Department.
Is there a reason why the contract was not attached as a PDF on the agenda?
I think it is.
It says it was available at the board office rather than being attached.
No, I don't know of any particular reason.
Okay. In the future, anytime we could, as the public, see those contracts, we do like to be able to look at those. The camp invention, it says it starts June 26th, runs from 8 to 4:30. How long does that program run?
It runs from June 26th to June 30th.
To June 30th, thank you. And you mentioned that it's for K to 6th grade students. Is there any cost to the parents for that program?
Yes.
How much does that cost the parents?
If the parent chooses to send their child to Camp Invention, it's $250.
$250. And do we, as a district, have a charge of the facilities for the company that does that?
No, that's why it's not on the chargeable or non-chargeable list. This is outside the policy. We're asking the board to approve this. It's a camp that surrounding schools have used for a number of years. I have found it to be very outstanding for students. It's voluntary, and this is the standard contract that they use with all the districts.
Who staffs that program? Is it our teachers, or is it staff part of this Camp Invention?
They will teach our staff how to do the program.
So it's our staff?
Yes.
And who pays our staff to do that?
Camp Invention.
Camp Invention pays our staff. Okay, so it's our certified teachers who are supervising our children?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any Title I money that goes towards that program?
No, there's no cost to the district, so no Title I money would go there.
Okay, the cost is strictly to the parents?
Yes.
And is there any cost as far as any kind of janitorial staff or anything that has to be in the building at the same time that this is running?
Well, we have staff in the building during those hours anyway.
Anyway,
so there's no
okay.
additional.
Okay, thank you. With regards to the redistricting, I actually attended the one meeting at Vets Elementary, because you had mentioned it at a previous meeting, and it was mentioned that the redistricting has already started, that any students coming in since January who live on any of those streets have already been part of the redistricting. So why is it that there's an approval tonight if it's already being done?
Well, what I said was, we haven't redistricted. We had an overcrowding situation in 2 grade levels that we felt we had to start channeling people to other schools for this year.
So it was okay to do it without a vote in January?
The kindergarten has a limit of 25 students in a class. So once we reached that 25, we had to either pay for a para in that or put students on another school, and that's what we did.
Okay. A lot of the parents at that meeting had asked about, since the problem is at Vets, if the overflow of students could be placed in the EEC classrooms. And I know, Mr. Philippone, I couldn't make the April 27th meeting, but you had mentioned that you were going to get clarification. I know at the I guess it was the March meeting, I believe it was Mr. Campbell had asked about that EEC space. Is that space able to be utilized for students for overflow, for the overcrowding?
It is able to be used for students if we wanted to use that. It would mean hiring additional teachers, which are not budgeted for, probably an administrator, probably a nurse. We would have to staff that as a school. Our problem isn't that we don't have enough classroom space. Our problem is that how they're distributed throughout the district.
Okay, so the EEC is not an option for overflow?
It's an option if we want to take on those expenses, and I don't think that's an efficient way of solving this problem.
But those classrooms are physically able to be used for students?
Yes.
Okay. As far as the redistricting in general, I did have a concern as a non-parent that I know a lot of people who are citizens did want to be a part of those meetings, but they weren't on the website or anything. Is there a way that private citizens could be part of the Honeywell alert system? Or could that maybe go on the digital? I know I'm a real estate agent, and it's very difficult in a situation like this when I have clients who only want to live in a certain school district because they don't want their children to move. And then when this goes on, you know, that's something that's very important for all different members of the community to be aware of.
I'd have to look into that, Mrs. Cuccinelli, because I'm not sure how we pay for the Honeywell system, if it's a per student or per person, or it's a blanket cost. If it's a blanket cost, I don't see why we couldn't add them. If it's a per student and it incurs a cost, we would have to look at the cost.
I did ask Chief Riccio if there was a way that we could include some of those alerts like that would appeal more to the public rather than to specific parents with the Nixle alert system, but he said that no, it would have to be done through the school.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really a matter of, I know sometimes I never used the Honeywell system in my previous experiences. The systems we used was a flat fee, so we can add anybody we wanted. But if it's a per student, we would just have to look at the cost, that's all.
Is that something I should send you an email or?
If you want, you certainly can.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. And will there be any other changes coming with streets with the redistricting in the near future?
Well, as I said after the presentation, I think this solves the problem for the near future. I don't know if it solves, I can't predict the future on down the road, but I think this is an interim step to try to solve the problem, and hopefully it'll allow us to continue this way for a long time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment?
Vic Finelli, Meadow Point Drive. I have a request from the ladies. You really need to speak into the microphone. I have no trouble hearing Mr. Filippone or Mr. Gianelli, but the ladies have softer voices, and if you're looking at me like right now, like you're looking...
I won't look at you.
Yeah.
How's that?
I
Better?
don't mind you looking at me, but when you answer, you really have to speak into the microphone, because I'm going to ask you to repeat one of your answers in a minute.
Okay.
Just a question on Mr. Filippone's presentation. Several meetings ago, if you remember, I asked a question about what do you target average class size at? When are you going to be at the point where you're saying, this is what the class size that we want to run with? And I know that you said you had a couple classes that were 25, and that was too many. And I know, I guess according to law, you can't have more than 25 in the kindergarten. But given everything you need, what's the optimum? What's the number where we say, this is the class size that we want to run with?
I think, and there's a lot of different research on class size, Mr. Finelli, I think in my estimation, and in the districts I've been in before, you would want to top out in the low 20s in elementary school. You can go a little bit higher in middle and a little bit higher in high school if you have to. The younger you are, the more important class size is. So I think class size expanding as the students get older is something you can tolerate. But for example, K to 3, you don't want 25 kids in a class. You don't want 20 kids in a class if you don't have to have them. Okay? 4th or 5th grade, you can tolerate a little bit more. And I'm really not talking from my personal belief, but that's what research tells us. So I think you want to go along with that figures.
Okay, so to summarize what I think you said, somewhere between 20 and 25, as long as you're not dealing with kindergarten or 1st grade?
Yeah, K to 3, I think you should go lower than that, but 20 to 25, 25 is a little bit high. Low 20s would be preferable.
Okay. I didn't hear your answer to Sharon about the minutes and the whatever.
What I said to her...
The reason I'm asking the question is that if you remember several months ago, we had a situation where that was going on, and that was brought up by Mrs. Cuccinelli when she was still on the board, and the commitment was that that problem is going to be fixed, and it appears that it's not fixed.
Well, my answer to her was that all the other agenda minutes went out. The Finance Committee minutes, which I am responsible for, I had a family member that had emergency surgery. My week got a little rumbled up. Mr. Edwards had sent me the minutes for approval. I had looked at them, thought I had emailed him back to send them out, and I did not, and didn't realize that until I got here this evening when he brought it up to me. So I had apologized to her as far as the Finance Committee meetings, but told her that I would look into why she wasn't receiving the minutes. I know that I received an email from the IT department that there was a bug that was going around, and if you saw this, please don't open up. Whether she was caught on that and has been dropped, I have no idea. I don't know why has not received them. Everyone else on the board has. Nobody's, had that complaint, but I will have Mr. Gianello look on it and also ensure that no one has been dropped from a distribution list or anything for, like I said, there was an email that went around from IT, so.
But you did state that she didn't get any committee reports,
She did
correct?
state that, correct? Yeah.
No, I didn't. And my question is, are the committee chairs sending them out or the administrators?
The administrators, Mary is usually the one that's sending them out, correct, Mary? You?
I send facilities and finance.
Okay, and then Sue sends out the,
C&I.
right. So
You're doing it again.
sending them out. I'm sorry. Mary sends out facilities and finance. Ms. McNamara sends out curriculum and instruction.
Mr. Cranston sends out HR.
Right, and then Mr.
I send the policy.
Right, so all the administrators are sending them out. They're not coming from the committee heads.
Sharon is the only one not getting them, and previous to this, Mrs. Cusinelli was the only one not getting them. I don't want to think that I have a suspicious mind.
I don't.
I have a suspicious mind. You got
Oh, we know
people
that.
They're not part of this poor school board, and they don't get the minutes. Now, I'm pretty sure that them not getting the minutes is a violation of your own policies.
Oh, sure.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And
But
I don't want to be the one to have to raise this to another level, but the problem existed. The problem was identified 5-6 months ago, 7 months ago.
Well, I think the problem then was timing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Cusinelli, it was the timing of you everyone receiving the minutes. Was not, you weren't receiving the minutes.
Since the administrators are giving out the minutes,
Right.
Mr. Finelli, I take offense that if you think we're denying a member because of whatever reason, something. We will find out why it's not happening, but it's not done on purpose, and it's offensive for you to try to say that.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask my other question, and you're really not going to like this one, all right?
Why should anything change?
This problem was identified and committed to by Mr. Lamella that it was going to be fixed, right? Now, here we are again, 5-6 months later, same problem, not been fixed. Now, Mr. Lamella's not here tonight, so is this going to count? Because let me tell you what happened last meeting. I brought it up, if you remember correctly. What was committed to us the meeting before, well, that doesn't count because I wasn't here. That was exact words when we were talking about the topic we were talking about. He's not here again tonight, so who's making the commitment and who's going to keep it?
I make the commitment that I will make sure that Mr. Gianella looks into this and gets back
Okay.
to us with this.
You're the one.
I'm the one. It's on me.
Because I tell you right now, if this becomes an issue again, I'm going to go somewhere else to get it resolved.
Go get them.
Excuse
We
me,
understand.
Mrs. Walrup, if I can just interject. I did not bring that up to cause a problem. And I don't know if everyone understands that there's two ways to run a Board of Education. There's a committee of the whole, which you would have what is known as a pre-agenda meeting, where everyone would be, all board members would be together, and that's a quorum. Then there's the other way, which is what we do, is to run it by committees. You cannot have more than 3 members at any time at a committee meeting. So what we need to do is, the people that are not at those committee meetings need to share the information because we all can't be there.
Right.
That's the way it's supposed to work. I didn't, bring it up for...
Oh, I understand that.
And all of us attend committee meetings, that we all sit on committees and we all attend committee meetings, is that right? I said we all sit on committees and we all attend committee meetings, so we know what the communication is.
Well, I think the problem is that there is no communication.
Oh, there's plenty of, I get plenty of emails and communication.
She didn't? She doesn't. There's a problem.
Mr. Finelli, if you have anything to say, please use the microphone.
I
We're
can't
recording
hear you.
this. Can't hear you.
I don't know whether you're saying there isn't a problem or there is a problem. Now, I'm bringing it up, and I'm being rather strong about it, because there is a problem. It was committed to being fixed. It's still a problem, and it's been a problem for the last 6 months. And one of my concerns is that we have school boards here that vote on things. And sometimes it appears that they have to vote on things that they didn't know anything about, or they haven't got any notes, or they don't know what's going on. Either that or they abstain from things. A commitment was made, and I'm really getting strong feelings about commitments being made and what's being said in these meetings. And if it's said and it's going to be done, then it needs to be done. If somebody says they're going to fix something, then I expect them to fix it. When they don't happen, then this is what you get. This is what you're going to get from me.
Can I give you an example,
And you're going to get it from me
Mr.
every
Pianella?
time this happens. And then if it doesn't get resolved, I'll get it resolved somewhere else.
Can I give you an example? The agenda was open to all board members on Friday, and I read the facilities operations report, and I picked up the phone and I called Mr. Barton, who's the chair of the facilities committee, and I copied Mr. Edwards on the email that I sent, because I had a question about an item on the agenda. Nothing prevented me from picking up the phone and sending an email and getting a written and a verbal response. That's the way the board's supposed to work. We're supposed to communicate with one another in that way. And we're all free to do that, every single member.
Mrs. Walrab, through the chair.
Yes.
I understand how committees are supposed to function. However, when you change board meeting dates and you have committee, I have no idea when your committees, any of these committees are meeting. So how can I send an email to ask questions on it when I haven't received it and you don't do it the same time every month? I mean, are all of the committees meeting every month? Transportation,
Walrab?
I mean, I just want to,
Mrs. Walrab, if I may, through the chair?
Well, as long as Sharon is finished first.
I'm
you know,
sorry, I thought you were
I'm
done.
only bringing this up because I didn't really like the tone of Mrs. Pacala's comment. I certainly do communicate. When I have a question, the first person that I pick up the phone to or I email is the superintendent, which is the right chain of command. So I'm very, very well aware of how it works. It just is not working, though.
And Sharon and I appreciate that.
And I
think
know-
we
I know
both,
you
we
do.
both have had a rough week.
Yes, we have.
And, I appreciate you accepting my apologies on not receiving the Finance Committee meeting minutes on time, and we will look into what happened.
I appreciate it.
Mr. Barton, did you have something?
I just wanted to ask if we could have had a phone call prior to spending this much time at a board meeting in the public, because I think that this is really not productive, and I don't believe that the people who spend their evenings coming to board meetings like to spend 10 minutes listening to us try to figure out what we're doing. So I believe that if it was a simple phone call, has there been a meeting? When is the meeting? I haven't gotten anything yet. Prior to a board meeting, it would have been a better way to discuss the problem.
I appreciate everyone's comments on this. Again, there were personal issues that we've both been through this week, so we're just going to kind of move on from this. I made a commitment. We'll figure out what's going on. Finance Committee meetings went out tonight. Again, I apologize for the lateness, and Mr. Gianello and I will work on what happened as to why you are not receiving your minutes, okay? Okay, any more public comment?
I have one more comment.
Okay.
And this is a partial response to Mr. Barton. All right? This is a public meeting. I'm sorry you feel that you're wasting time, but this is a public meeting, and we have the right to question the school board on anything that's brought up at the meeting. All right? This is not the first time this issue has been brought up. It was brought up 6 months ago, and my problem, and I'm going to be done when I say this, is a commitment was made that this problem was going to be fixed. Obviously, it's not fixed. So the commitment was said to shut me up or shut somebody else up and move on with the agenda, just like you're trying to do now, but it wasn't fixed. And when you make a commitment, you damn well better be sure that you're going to commit to it, because if you're not, you're going to have to deal with me. Now, I don't care what the subject is. This was not the first time this was brought up. And the school board members need the information to vote on this stuff. End of story. It's not a waste of time. This is our meeting, not yours.
Thank you. Any other? Yes.
This is just on, I'm sorry, on HR.
So you can do,
If it's on,
no,
under,
it's
I'm sorry,
on
under curriculum
yeah,
instruction.
so if it's on the, yeah. Yes, you can, yes, this would be the time to speak on the redistricting, yes.
This is not for policy, this is just
Not
for
yeah.
129.
Are you talking about, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. Anyone else?
Mr. Scott?
George Scott, Queen Anne Road. I'm just going to finish up this subject right here, if I can. I'm going to rely on the superintendent and yourself to look into it. That answer is satisfactory for me. However, for two board members to say that somebody should have made a phone call, I think is a little insulting to that other particular board member. And Mr. Barton, you're right. We don't want to sit here for 10 minutes listening to something that should have been resolved. So if the superintendent is going to look into it, I'm hoping that that whole issue is going to be resolved to everybody's satisfaction, including the audience here, that we don't have to waste 10 minutes. With that said, I'd like to move on to number 9, redistricting. Mr. Filippone, at his presentation, mentions stakeholders. It's not only people with children, it's not only people that belong to the PTA, and I think Mr. Finelli brought this up at the last meeting. Mr. Filippone said he wasn't notified because he wasn't a stakeholder. But as taxpayers, I think we are stakeholders. Mrs. Cusinelli brought up a situation where when the superintendent looks into people being able to be notified, depending on the cost, I think that is rather important, not only for this particular one, but for other issues also. My question at the last meeting to Mr. Filippone was, were there any additional costs involved? Your answer to me was, no, there are no additional costs with what we're doing here. However, you did stipulate that if parents write a letter to the superintendent and they say they want their children to stay at a specific school, as long as they're willing to provide transportation, it's okay. But supposing they're not willing to provide transportation, what are you going to do then? Is it going to be a flat no, so there are no costs? Or are you going to waive that situation?
Let me answer that, Mr. Scott.
I'm asking Mr. Filippone because he's the one that addressed it, if you don't mind.
And I'm the superintendent, and I'll answer that.
Okay.
We have a policy, not a policy, but our procedure is if a parent wants to go outside their sending lines, they must provide their own transportation. We don't bus across lines.
Okay. So that parent would have to pay for that?
No, we don't bus people a line. Either they go to the school we bus to, or if we have room, they provide transportation to the school they want to go to.
Okay, so the answer is then you're not going to waive the fact that they're going to have to provide transportation. Is that correct?
For 4th and 5th, what we do is we consider that on an as-need basis, or whoever requested it, we look at class size. The difference in this case, that we committed to 4th and 5th grade, we will allow them to stay in that school because students have been there for 4 years already at least. We will allow them to finish there if the parent wants to provide transportation.
If the parent wants to provide transportation. So that's the answer. So there will be no cost?
No cost to the district.
That's fine.
Anybody else? Public comment? Mary?
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Ms. Gagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards, operations?
The interim superintendent recommends the board approve items 1 through 12 and items 14 through 32.
I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion?
Second.
Board discussion?
I have a question about the windows, the lintel project. So these windows were installed over rust. And in order to remediate this, even to investigate the need for remediation, demolition is inevitable. Is that right, Mr. Barton?
I believe it's called destructive investigation? Destructive research?
When you use the term, Mr. Pacala, the demolition, I think there's some limited work that needs to get done to investigate this. I don't think, and Mr. Edwards, I know you were part of it, the discussion, I don't think they're taking windows out or anything else to do the investigation. That might have to come down the pike if it's worst-case scenario and we have to replace some lintels, but right now, they're just doing work to investigate to see if there's any damage.
So how will they look under the lintel?
You drill a hole. Am I right, Mr. Calabas?
Yeah, they'll open a hole, and that's where construction comes in, cut a hole in the wall.
Does that compromise the structure of the window?
No.
Through the chair,
Yes, Mr. Martin.
there's other areas, not just behind the window, as well, that are going to be investigated.
Do you want to clarify on that?
When the architect looked at the building, he noticed some stains, rust stains. Some of those rust stains were behind windows, and some of the rust stains were not behind windows.
Ms.
Doc?
Walrab, Ms. Walrab?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think the window issue somehow is confusing the lintel issue, and I want to make sure that it's clear.
Okay.
The windows are not what caused the lintel issue.
I understand.
I think what Mr. Barton referred to at the last meeting was that it's hard for us now, looking at the lintels, to understand how, when the windows were being installed or even designed, how the lintel issue wasn't recognized at that time. So that's what our concern in regards to the window installation project is, that we feel it should have been something that was noticed at that time. The windows did not cause the issue. We don't know what caused the issue, and that's what this destructive testing is for, so that we can open up sections of the wall. The architect and the engineers can look in there, look at the actual condition of the lintels themselves, and determine what's causing them, and also what the remediation is that is needed to correct them. So I just want to make sure that it's clear. It wasn't the windows that caused the issue.
Oh, yeah, I understood that.
Thank you. Any other board questions? Okay, public comment? Ladies first. There you go. You're such a gentleman.
Thanks, Karen Cusinelli, 113 Duchess Lane. With regards to all the information, I just want to clarify, this is reflective of March, the end of March, correct? All the financial information is pertinent to the end of March.
Mr. Edwards? Mr. Edwards?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, March 31st, correct.
Okay. I noticed in the manual checks, a lot of checks to AMCO and PMA. Could you tell me what those are, please?
AMCO is the construction contractor that worked on the HVAC project here at Brick Township High School. And PMA is the workman's comp third-party provider. Third-party administrator, sorry, third-party administrator. Didn't say that.
Okay. Those are what the manual checks are mostly to, that's why I was curious. Number, I believe it's 15, coordinated transportation with ESCNJ. What is that?
Educational Services Commission of New Jersey, that's a jointure. It's a route that they administer. Multiple school districts partake in it.
Is that like private school runs?
It most likely would be. It'd be special education runs. It could also be non-public runs, however, as well.
Thank you. And what is the nature of the Bank of America amendment? I was curious why it was dated back in April also.
The Bank of America is the lease proceeds. The board borrowed $11.5 million to do various construction projects. 2 of those construction projects are still hanging out there, not closed. And so we need to extend the lease one more time, hopefully, to have these projects closed out.
So that's why it was dated back in April, that's when it ran out? We're doing this almost like a ratification?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And in number 21, what are we paying NETA for number 21?
What are we paying them? We're going to be paying them on the...
I'm sorry,
actual
Mr.
cost-
Edwards, I hate to keep asking like everybody else. Could you bring the microphone closer, please? I really can't hear you.
We're going to be paying NETA Architectural the percentage, their fee percentage based upon the proposal. I'd have to go back and, I don't remember when that exactly was approved.
So it's an amount that was previously approved?
Yes, I want to say it was the March meeting, so I'm looking back now. See what meeting it was approved at.
It was also in the budget, correct, Mr. Edwards?
The project itself is
Yeah.
part of the budget, but the fee for NETA was approved already.
Do you remember roughly?
You mean how much or when?
How much? Yeah,
Oh.
roughly how much?
It was approved at the March 9th, 2017 meeting for an amount not to exceed $81,000.
I'm sorry, how much?
$81,000.
81,000, thank you. And what about, if you want to just leave that up, in number 23, what is the amount that we'd be paying NETA in number 23?
What's 23? I have to switch agendas. Track. That was also on the same agenda, and that was a fee not to exceed $84,375.
$84,375. Okay, thank you. In number 29, why are we contracting with a transportation company for a school trip for about $2,600? Don't we have in-house that can do that?
No, because at the time of the school trip, we do not have in-house that could do that. Our vehicles are being used for other things.
And that's not a school trip that could be changed? I mean, it just seemed like a lot of money, $2,600 to a private bus company.
It's paid for by it's not paid for by the Board of Ed, it's paid for by the parents. So that's
But the board still has to approve it?
correct. Because
Okay,
we're
thank you.
approving the field trip, correct.
And in number 30, again, NETA, what are we paying them there?
That's the $8,500 is what's being paid there.
I'm sorry, Mr. Edwards, could you repeat that? I can't hear you.
$8,500 is the amount being paid there. I'll speak really
Thank
close,
you.
sorry. $8,500 is the amount.
You sound very godlike now.
It's actually
Mr. Edwards.
in number 3, the fee for the service shall not exceed $8,500 as per the attached proposal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a reason why that was done without a bid?
The architectural services approved by the board, NETA is our architect of record for the year.
So from now on, anything that needs an architect, we will be doing as a no bid?
Professional services are not bid, they're exempt under 18A, 18A5.
Okay. And in numbers 31 and 32, what are we paying NETA?
That's already included as their fee for services.
So there's no, it's part of their annual fee of being...
It's part of the fees that you just asked about previously
Okay,
for
great.
both projects.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Yes, go ahead. Karen, I'm still thinking about the whole God and Jim in the same, sentence. Sorry.
A lot of my questions have already been answered by the previous person that was here, but I do have a question on number 15. Can you explain number 15 a little bit better to me?
Mr. Edwards, you want to go for that one?
Number 15, right, Mr. Scott?
15, correct.
15 is...
15.
Thank you. 15 is the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey. It's a resolution to participate in coordinated transportation. It's similar to what Mrs. Cusinelli asked about earlier. ESC does a lot of coordinated transportation routes for special education and non-public, where we join up with other districts and share the costs in transporting students to similar locations.
Okay. I do understand that a little bit better. Let's go back to number 30, something that, again, Mr. Edwards, you just said a couple of minutes ago. When these windows were put in, it should have been noticed at that particular point, is what I think I heard you say.
Correct.
And now you're paying a firm $8,500 to look into it further. My question is, if it was realized that something should have been done or to prevent it, are we going to go after whoever caused the problem?
I think we're not going to discuss possible litigation. I think it's going to be what we find, and after speaking to the attorneys, what our options are. I think it's premature to answer that right now. Is it a possibility? It's a possibility.
Okay, I mean, if it's a small amount, I'm sure we're not going to care, but if it winds up to be an entire amount, we have a similar situation across the way where drainage at our landfill, there was a major mistake and it cost us an extra $273,000. That's the kind of money that I don't like to see being wasted, and nothing was going to happen until I pursued it. And the attorney over there had said, well, we're not going to chase it, and I just want to make sure here that we're going to follow up on anything the taxpayers can recoup. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be quick. Just on that same subject, I noticed in what you're voting on, there's no prices included in that, but there is a statement that you pay either a 2% or a 4% administrative fee. Who decides on the 2% or the 4%, and what are we getting?
Are you talking about number 15, Mr. Finelli?
Yeah, the one Mr. Scott was talking about, the bus.
Okay, he was talking about a couple. I don't know how that is determined. Mr. Edwards, do you know how we determine that 2 or 4%?
If you look at the agreement, it's actually the 6% is underlined because we're a non-member district, being that we're not located in Middlesex County.
Okay, that answers, I understood the 6%, but it says you will pay either 2% or 4%. Which do you pay? You're voting on it, not knowing whether you're going to pay a 2% administrative?
We're a non-member district, so we pay the 6%. I'm not sure how they determine for member districts whether they pay the 2% or 4%. That would be a question you would have to take up with the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey. Their meetings are advertised on their website, I'm sure.
But, okay, I understand that part, but if we're joining it, aren't we a member?
No, we're going to be a non-member district. In order to be a member of their commission, you have to be a district in the county of Middlesex.
Okay.
We're not in Middlesex County, we're actually in Ocean County.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I understand that part. Second, and my last one, number 27, the BEST report. Could I ask who put that together?
Excuse me?
You want to know who put the budget together?
Who put the report together?
The program director.
What,
The
take-
best program director
Okay.
put it together.
Is that is a male or female?
Female.
I'm going to give an atta-girl instead of an atta-boy, okay? An atta-girl.
Atta-girl, yeah.
I hope you look at that, because I looked at it and I said, this is a masterpiece, all right? And I guess you're not used to me getting up here and throwing good things out. However, if you look at that report, it's clear, it's concise, everything is spelled out, it reads easy, and just so you know, I mean, you're supplying a service to parents, all right? Which, and I was dubious when this first came out, this BEST thing. Everybody made some good comments, but I said, well, let's wait and see. So we waited and see. You're supplying a service, you're giving employment to those people, and you made a profit of $371,000. And if you figure that out based on the revenue to come in, that's about a 37% return on the revenue for profit. In the business world, that's almost unheard of. So whoever put that together, and to all of those people involved with that, and everybody that has anything to do with it, attaboy, attagirl, that's terrific. I hope we can see more of that. look at that thing and say, this is how Mr. Finelli wants to see something done, because that's a piece of work. Thank
I
you.
will share your comments with her.
Mr. Finelli, if I can, Mrs. Walrath, Mrs. Finelli, Mrs. Tyndall happens to be sitting right here,
I didn't see you. Hello.
and I'm sure she's going to really appreciate your comment when we discuss her salary going forward. So thank you.
Next year, I see her up here getting flowers or something.
Any other public comments? Yes, Mr. Campbell.
Walt Campbell, 655 Mark Manor. This is in reference to number 13, AMCO number 21.
Mr. Campbell, sorry, number 13 was removed from the agenda today. It's no longer being voted on. The change order that the contractor submitted to us was not completely accurate. It was off by a few dollars, so we had to pull it.
On a change order?
Number 13 is no longer on the agenda.
Well, the problem's still there.
It's not on the agenda, so that discussion, Mrs. Walrath, would have to wait until the end of the meeting, because that
Okay,
issue is
that's
no longer part of operations.
Well, Mr. Barton there commented on it during his committee meeting.
That would be appropriate for him to do that during his committee report.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Campbell, at the end, when we have open discussion again, you can bring up number 13, but why don't we move on to number 21, please, and ask your question on that one?
21?
You had mentioned 13 and 21. We're going to save 13
I
till
didn't
the
mention-
end, and number 21.
No,
you can
I'm
accept.
sorry. This is number 13, AMCO change order 20 and 21.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then we have to wait on 13 till the end because it's no longer part of this group.
I can come back then at the
Yep,
end?
you can come back then at the end and discuss that one. Do you
Because
have
it's
any
got
other
to get
questions?
rectified. This goes on, and this poor
And-
gentleman sitting here, he inherited it. And
That's
it's
fine.
not fair to him.
Absolutely, Mr. Campbell. At the end, you can bring that one back up. Do you have any other questions on anything else in this?
Yes, I do, on the track.
Okay.
I want to congratulate Mr. Barton. We went from 1,500,000 down to 860,000 or something like that, John, is that right?
Do you want an explanation for that? Do you want the...
You definitely, that's in the ballpark.
Well, the explanation, if I may, Ms. Walrath,
Yes.
the contractor gave us the initial estimate, and someone asked us to look at it again. I believe it was the last board meeting, we were asked to take a look at that because everyone felt as if we could do better. He took a look at what he proposed, and he proposed an 8-lane track rather than the standard high school level 6-lane track. So there's where the cost difference was. It was a simple site that I guess they do so many of these tracks, they just planned an 8-lane. It's probably something that they just pick up as a normal contract and didn't realize that we weren't in the market for an 8-lane track. High schools use 6 lanes.
Well, I told you were getting hosed. You didn't believe me.
No, but we did look into it for everybody.
I appreciate you did.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention, too, because we do not want to have an 8-lane track out there doing nothing.
All right, I'd like that grandchildren coming through. I'd like to see them use the track. Now, let's get back to the track for a second. A couple of problems that they're not going to come up with, and Jim can verify it on me. On the west end, where the old track is, we had a drainage problem over there, back there in that culvert just behind the west end of the track. Remember that, Jim?
No, I can't say I do. At the Brick High School you're talking about?
It's between the fence of the bus drivers there, and it's sloped on down towards the track area.
No, I don't recall that. I'm sorry.
Well, anyway.
Mr. Campbell, are you talking about, because I think you're describing Brick Memorial and not Brick. Are you talking about Brick High
No,
School?
no. I took care of that one.
Okay.
Now, Bottom line is, do some core samplings down on that end, see where the water table is. That's all on that one. Now, the most important thing you have to do on this track is in the foundation. Now, the guy that did ours over at Brick Memorial, Fiore Paving, correct, Jim?
I do believe it was Fiore Paving, yes.
Okay.
That was the low bidder.
Right. If you could get him on a public contract basis, that is the most critical part of the whole track. I don't care what you put on the surface. If you don't have the foundation, you're wasting your time. That's what happened when we did Brick Memorial. We opened it up. There was some gravel foundation. Then they filled in other spots with asphalt. Then they filled in other spots with gravel. And it was ridiculous. It was a real screw job, bluntly. So, that's the most critical thing, and that man was perfect with it, because that thing has to be perfectly level before they can put any coatings on it. So if you could get him, because he's done work for us before, do it right. Get him in there, let him lay it out, put all the drain perimeters in. That is so important. Okay? Please look into it. Oh, the other thing is, are they putting in the, what are they doing for the broad jump pit that's away from the track? They doing anything with that?
I believe that's going to be part of the bid.
That is, okay. Okay, now let's drop down to the next one that was a topic. Number 30. Now, a little background on this. Where did you find the problems with the lintels? What section was it in? Let me explain something, maybe it'll clarify it. Lake Riv, the original section was 1960. Now, in 1996, they put a modular section on the back end there. In 2001, this is where I'm a little skeptic, they did 2 additions. Now, in one of the, where is the problems with the, what section's it in?
Mr. Edwards?
Sure, it's in the original building section.
In the 1960?
Yeah, it's in the original building section of the building, and it's all of the sections that, where there's 2 stories. So anywhere there's 2 stories is where we're encountering the problem.
In the original section?
In the original section. It's not occurring in the additions, it's only in the original section of the building.
It wasn't in the 201, 2 additions that they did?
It's not in it's not in any additions, it's in the original section of the building.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I was just curious, because I had a theory. I thought maybe I could link it up with the EEC, because they're all built about the same time. All right, thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, Mary?
Ms. Cantillo?
No to number 19, no to number 21, 23, and 30, and yes to the rest.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Ms. Cagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Hafner?
Yes.
Okay, Human Resources, Mr. Gianella?
The interim superintendent recommends human resources number 1 through 23.
I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Board comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
On number 22, the 504 officer and homeless liaison, wasn't that included in the job description as part of the responsibilities of the new special ed director?
When the new special ed director comes on board, we will reevaluate where those duties should go. Didn't really want to overwhelm her when she walks in the door. I would think that they're eventually going to migrate over to that position, but we want to get there eventually.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Public comment? Yeah.
Karen Cusinelli, Dutchess Lane. Through the chair, I'd just like to ask, during the committee reports, Ms. Pacala every month says that everything is standard, but I'm not really sure what she means when she says that everything is standard. Could I get clarification on that,
Sure.
please?
Ms. Bacala?
I mean that there isn't
I'm
any...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Could you pull the microphone closer?
I mean that at the committee meeting and the committee minutes show that there were no issues that were what is the word? There was no conflict with anything that was asked for by employees and granted to the employees.
So what would be non-standard? Like, for example, in number 12, you're placing an employee on administrative leave without pay and without benefits. That doesn't seem very standard to me.
If I may, on certain instances, as you know, Mrs. Cusinelli, things are confidential. So we will discuss them in committee, but you're limited to what you can report.
So when she says that everything is standard, what does that mean?
The one you are referring to is a long-standing issue that the board is very aware of.
Was that employee in number 12 riced for this meeting?
She was not discussed in closed session, but all the employees on the agenda have been riced.
Okay, but even though this is on the agenda, that employee does not have to receive a rice notice?
Like I said, all the employees, under the new standard, all the employees on the agenda have been riced.
Okay, so back to when we say that it's standard, that means?
I think most of HR is either standard hirings, retirements, different things like that, leaves of absences, the majority of that. A lot of the other things are fairly confidential that you don't want to talk about in open session. You can't talk about in open session.
So what would be considered non-standard?
If we're firing somebody.
I'm sorry?
If we're firing somebody.
Oh, okay, okay. In number 23, the administrator's contract, who negotiated that contract?
We have a negotiations committee. Mrs. Wohlrab and Ms. Pacala sat on that committee with Mr. Edwards and myself.
Okay, and how many employees are in that group?
I'm guessing 36, but help me, Mr. Edwards.
It was somewhere right around there.
Yeah. I think it's about 36 or 37. That's a ballpark. How many? Good guess, huh?
And what modifications were made since the last contract?
It's a 3-year contract. The increase is...
Mr. Janella, sorry.
Yes.
The contract has not been voted on yet.
Oh, sorry. We have to go over that after the contract is voted on.
Oh, I forgot, we're back to...
Me too.
Right, did you get a written legal opinion on that?
On the contract?
No, on withholding that information from the public?
I think the attorney is the one who gave us that opinion on it.
You have that in writing and with references?
I think he has stated it in public.
Okay, so you have the reference and you have it in writing?
No, I said I think he stated it in public.
Okay, so you don't have it in writing. Thank you.
And to answer your question, the contract that was negotiated included 37.
I'm going to stay with number 23. And yes, I brought this up before. The question that Mrs. Cusinelli asked about it being in writing, and again, you were answering the question when Mr. Edwards interrupted you. So I assume that you felt a little at ease to answer the question up to...
No, I forgot.
But you forgot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The fact that it hasn't been voted on, again, the taxpayers have a right to know how it's going to affect them financially It's done across the way before it's voted on, so we can give comments to what we might see as objectionable. Once you vote on it, that's it, and it's written for 3 years, and then we're just, supposed to swallow it. I don't think that is what is meant to be. There's no transparency there. I am part of the public, and I just respectfully disagree with that whole arrangement. It's done across the way with the council. They bring it forward. No, you've already negotiated because you're voting on it. So you know what you're trying to do. I just don't see the point. Can you elaborate, Council President?
Mr. Gino, our attorney?
The bottom line is it's still an open negotiation.
You got to speak into the microphone.
It is still an open negotiation until the board votes on the recommended contract as being proposed. So if the vote were not to pass, the board may be back in negotiations, and that's why it shouldn't be discussed in public, because it's an ongoing contract negotiation. It's no different than any of the other contracts.
Has this always been the way that?
As far as I know, it has been, yes.
Then why do other public entities feel free to, do it before the vote is done? I mean, once the negotiation is finished and you think you have a deal, why not let people know to decide whether we think it's a good deal?
I can't speak to what other public entities do, but I can tell you what the proper procedure is here, and that's what the board is following.
I still don't think it's right.
Any other?
On that same topic for 1 second, I hope you understand what we go through on this side of the table, okay? As you know, salary and benefits are the biggest nut in the school district, roughly 85% of it. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm not a lawyer, the negotiations are over when the negotiators and the union people or whoever come to an agreement that this is what we're going to present to the board, all right? So nobody's negotiating anymore. The negotiations are done, you have a package, you're going to present it to the board to vote on. There is no more negotiation. So you can say it's still a negotiation. Fact of the matter is, it's not. You got a presentable package here that the board is going to vote on. Now, if you opened it up to public comment and come up with something really good, then you'd have to go back and renegotiate if the board turns it down. What would you do if the board voted no? You have to go back and renegotiate.
That's why it's an open negotiations.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is, but it stinks. On question number 1, you're losing 4 very tenured teachers there, 113 years. Wow. Are you going to replace those teachers, or have you replaced them already? The reason I'm asking is because at the last meeting when we talked about the budget, there was a lot of accolades because we didn't have to have a reduction in force. And I understand that letting people go is not a fun thing. However, when people are retiring, you don't have to let anybody go. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we continue to go down in students.
You
So there should
remember,
be some
Mr. Finelli, that last year we lost 14 positions?
Yeah.
We only really let go 1 person because of those retirements, so we
Okay.
did exactly what you said.
Okay.
But I think we did we went pretty deep last year. We don't have to go that deep this year. We're keeping all our positions, so the answer to your question is yes, we intend on replacing all of these people.
Okay, then it's a golden opportunity. And just for your
I think
information.
the golden opportunity is to educate kids and get the good people to do that. That's, I think, the golden
I understand that.
Okay.
And that's why my previous question talked about class size and when it's enough, and when do we, I mean, I know that Brick is not unique in losing students, everybody in losing students. And if you follow the articles in the newspaper, some school districts are making tough decisions, and you're going to have to make those tough decisions. Now, if you continue to have tenured people retire and it solves the problem, I'll shut my mouth. I'd rather see that than let people go. But when it comes to a point where you're saying, well, we didn't have to let anybody go, I hope you realize that when you look at this and say, well, maybe we only should replace 3 of these people. I don't know. And just for your information, I don't know whether it matters or not, the person who's, I Item number 2, the resignation. I realize that was just put on the agenda, 5:10, but that person, I think, is still on the tenure teachers list. So I don't know if that matters, but she's actually on 2 lists. She's retiring, but she's still on the one that you're approving. Do you need to remove her?
Let me look at that. I know Mr. Cranston is looking at that right now. I thought we rechecked.
Well, unless there's 2 people with exactly the same name, she's on both lists.
Maybe, but I don't think so.
While he's looking that up, any other public comments? We have to wait before we can vote to see.
If the person's on, we'll remove him.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll remove that person.
So with amendment, do we have to do anything for that before we vote?
Mr. Montenegro, will we have to amend the motion or just take it off?
We just take her off.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. No other public comments? No? Okay. Mary?
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes, I'm going to abstain on number 8, specifically number 315, and abstain on 23.
I didn't hear the last number.
Ms. Cantu on the rest?
Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Just, Ms. Cantillo, sorry, we didn't, did you say yes to all the rest?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Barton?
I'm going to abstain on number 1, line 4, number 8, line 28, and number 23, yes to the rest.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Ms. Gagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Hafner?
Yes. Mr. Philippone, policies?
The interim superintendent recommends that the board approve the following items: 1, 2, and 3.
I need a motion and a second.
Motion?
Second.
Board comments? Questions? Public? Oh. Do you want to go first? Would you like to go first? Yeah.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. The reason I asked this question was on, I guess, your presentation about policy before. It says, and this struck me as being a little bit weird, Narcan is going to be available in schools now in case of drug overdose for people who choose to take drugs, but EpiPens, parents still have to bring them in, pay the money, do their thing, because these children did not choose to have this illness.
So I
Just
think
a
we answered
comment.
that this year. We have EpiPens in each nurse's office for emergencies. We don't supply EpiPens for every student who needs it. They bring those in. So I think that's, but we do have EpiPens for emergencies.
But you have a Narcan for every student that needs it.
To save a life, yes. And because students can't
And
bring
you
that-
don't think saving a life for EpiPen users is the same? Be serious.
That's why we have EpiPens in every nurse's office. Narcan is something that's used in emergency that students or parents can't bring in.
Oh, so we don't mind paying the expense for all the parents who have a choice. They don't have a choice. The people who don't, are we going to charge the people who use them then later?
The ones that we provide, no, we don't charge them.
Well, after you use them, do you charge them?
No.
Well,
we use them in case of
again, that thing makes no sense to me, why you would tell people that a child could die because of an allergy or something like that, and you're going to say, well, you should be bringing in your own stuff.
We have EpiPens in the offices, but they're not for the use of everybody. We can't provide that. It's for emergencies if it's for, because of the cost. And besides, we're not a pharmacy.
Right,
we
but
have
you
to
will-
limit what we do.
I just don't get it. It makes no sense to me. You provide it for people who have a choice not to do it, but for the people who don't have a choice in life to die from an allergy, You don't provide it. It makes no sense. Okay, thank you.
Doesn't cost the district.
With regards to some of the policy changes, what changed in number 3160, the transfer of funds between line items? We don't have the old and the new and the changes up. It's just what's being approved, so I don't know what was changed.
If I remember, Mr. Philippone, that was because of some changes, and maybe Mr. Edwards can answer it, some changes in the law that we had to change?
Yeah, I answered, yep. One of the board members had a question on that, and I remember answering.
Yes. I think it was changes in the law.
So what language was changed?
I can get you that.
Okay. What about the changes in number 3410, the reserve accounts?
Same answer, I can get that for you too. 3110, what was the other one?
3410, reserve accounts.
What was the other one?
3160. What changed in number 2130, the principal evaluations?
Mr. Philippone, you know that?
Almost, yeah, very, very little, because we use the evaluation process, Achieve NJ, so we are bound by those rules and regulations. I think it just set the timelines and the protocols for completing those evaluations in a timely fashion.
Could I request that maybe the public can see the old and the new so we can see what's changing? Because there's no way of knowing what's changed. We see that there's a change, but we don't know what that change actually is. And number 2131, was that reviewed by an attorney? Because there was a lot of language in there that I question whether it's legal.
Well, first of all the policies, as you know, come from New Jersey school boards. They have two folks working on the policies. One of them is an attorney. So it's reviewed by an attorney at the school board's level. All of the policies that are going on for board approval are then sent to Mr. Montenegro's office for review as well. So the answer is yes.
Did any board members actually review these?
All of the policies go out to the board members for review.
Okay, because I noticed in number 2131, I'll quote it, with the approval of the board president, suspending any assistant superintendent, school business administrator, principal, assistant principal, or teacher. Well, we don't have assistant superintendents in our district, so that language really should not be in it for our district. And also, the conditions of our employment contracts don't allow that the superintendent can just choose to suspend somebody with the board president. I mean, especially in the
Mrs.
case...
Cunningham, Mrs. Spinelli, that's the law.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
by statute, in an emergent situation, by statute, the superintendent, with the notice to the board president, is responsible for and entitled to suspend on an emergent basis, and then it's brought to the board at the next meeting. That's set forth in 18A.
Also, the policy consultant would tell you you should leave assistant superintendent in there. So if you ever recreate that position, you don't have to change the policy to accommodate it.
And we don't need any language that allows for the fact that, like, in our specific case, our board president is in conflict as a member of the NJPSA and would not be able to be a decision maker on a fellow NJPSA member?
It's not a decision maker, it's to inform the board president of it.
Well, it says the approval. It doesn't say informed, it says the approval, which is an action.
I believe that if this would happen, and it doesn't happen often, but if it happens, you inform the board president, and that's the way the law states.
So we're just not going to worry about it, we're just going to hope we don't have to
No,
use this
I said we
language.
would, the law always trumps it anyway. It's the law that counts, and that's what the law says. But if there's a issue there, we should take a look at that and ask the policy consultant why they put it that way.
Okay, because there was also that the chief school administrator can make salary adjustments. A lot of the language in there, I really just felt like it was in conflict with our labor contracts, and I was very surprised to see the language. Did the board members review all of these? I didn't have a chance to go through all of them because there were so many, and we didn't get them till Tuesday night, but you know, I know as a former board member, one of, if not the most important thing we do is creating policy, and I'm sorry to see that it's really kind of glossed over.
Mrs. Cusinelli, I respectfully, I do take just minor offense to that because we do take a lot of time with them. I'm on board with the people from school boards all the time.
But we are relying on them.
Respectfully, again, they are saying that we are moving at a very, very slow pace through this process. Most school districts take entire series, as you know, and try to prove an entire series at every meeting so that they can get through all those policies. We are not doing that.
But that was already done in 2015.
But we have learned from the errors of our ways, and I think the term that you used was
Policy tsunami.
And this is but a policy ripple.
I just don't like the idea of cookie cutter policies, because I think that when we come down to an issue and you're in the court of law, words have meaning. And
Well, the one thing that I can tell you is that the policies from New Jersey school boards have been reviewed by an attorney. They meet the requirements of the law, and that I believe that in the event that we had to use those policies, that we would be covered in that respect.
well, I'm sure our experienced superintendent is comfortable with the language in all of them, or he wouldn't recommend them, but we do have to realize collectively as a district that parents and citizens now, that's what we go by. And we have to, you know, live by the sword, die by the sword. So you need to be very careful of that language. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Kuzinski, just so I know, 3410 and 3160, you wanted the markups?
I think those were the two.
3160, 3410, and I really had big concerns on 2131, but I did not have an opportunity to review the other ones.
We'll get you those three.
Thank you.
I'll get them for you.
Thank you.
Any other?
I bet I caused you some angst when last I was at the lectern and I asked who wrote that report, not realizing that the person was sitting in the audience.
Yeah.
And you looked at me like, do I really want to tell them who it was? Surprise.
You're always
I really do look for good things to say, believe me. Most of my questions have to do with what was said at the last meeting, because we didn't really have a chance to go through the budget or look at the other things, or because of the comments that were made at the board's comment section when we're not allowed to ask questions. Although I guess that rule changed last meeting, because somebody was allowed to come up during the comment section of the board because, quote, you can come up because you always say nice things. Wrong. Having to do with the referendum, just so I understand, based on what was said, and also there was an article in the newspaper, quotes from...
Sorry, Mr. Finelli, Mrs. Wall, we're still on policy,
Right.
so I'm not sure if Mr. Finelli is aware of it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I was like,
My mistake.
it happens. Thank you.
does.
Any other public comments on policies? No? Mary?
Stay right there, Mr. Finelli, you're going to be back.
Yeah, he'll be right back. Might as well.
Save you a trip.
Mary?
Ms. Cantillo?
On number
I'm
one,
glad to hear it wasn't my old ears that weren't hearing well, but the legs, they're not so good either. Okay.
Wait a minute, we're
Wait,
still
wait,
voting.
wait
Stay
one
right
second.
there,
We're going to
still
vote,
voting.
and then we'll be right to you.
Policy.
Yeah.
number one, no to 3160, no to 3410, no to, and number three, no to 2131 and 2210. Yes to all the rest.
Mr. Barton?
Yes to number one, and because of my conflict, I have to abstain from number two, and I have to abstain from number three, all but policy in number three, 2255, I'll go yes, but the rest of number three is no.
No, or you?
Yeah, I was just going to say no.
I'm sorry, it was an abstain. Yes, I have to abstain because of my conflict.
Ms. McCullough?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Ms. Gagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Hefner?
Yes.
Okay. Public comment? Yeah, all you.
First one, I just wanted to test my understanding on what was said about the intended referendum and what was written in the newspaper from Mr. Lamella. I guess it was an interview with the Asbury Park Press. There's a $500,000 bond that we're making the last payment on. That, I guess it was from 1996, and that was a 20-year, I guess, bond thing. And the comments that were made that we're going to do, if we do this referendum, there'll be no increase in expenses. Is that also going to be a 20-year commitment for the $12 million?
I don't think we're there yet. It was just something that was kind of passed. Mr. Gianello, do you want to comment on that? I mean, I don't...
I think you're correct,
Yeah.
Mrs. Waller. We're not there yet, but I think one of the things that have been discussed is for another 20-year bond, yes.
It's what?
For another 20-year bond, yes. That was one of the things discussed. I'm talking right into it. I can't help you.
Yeah, no, you're looking at me. Look at the microphone. So, yes, it's going to be a 20-year...
No, that's not what I said. I said that was one of the things that we discussed.
Okay. Now, here's my problem then, all right?
Okay.
The comments were made that there was going to be no increase to the taxpayers. If, in fact, this is a 20-year bond, and you said you haven't looked at that yet, if I understand you, you're talking about $12 million spread out over 20 years, that comes out to $600,000 a year. That's $100,000 more than the $500,000. So I'm looking at an increased expense of $100,000 if you do that. And oh, by the way, that doesn't include the interest on the bond. That's just the principal. So I guess if you really haven't looked at this seriously, I don't know how you're making a commitment that there's going to be no...
There was no commitment
Yeah.
made. It was just something that was commented on.
Mr. Finelli, what Mr. Edwards talked about was exploring that. The board still has to look at the projects and still has to make a decision if they want to go in that direction.
Okay. I think the comments that I heard at the last meeting came from you that there would be no increase. However, I could be wrong, but I'm not wrong in what I read in the newspaper from...
Comments from me were exactly right. The plan is that we're going to present a referendum that would not be an increase to taxpayers once the former bond is paid off. Yes.
Okay, for the next whatever amount of years.
Whatever.
I will be watching it.
Good.
That's for sure. The second one, there was a lot of comments about teacher absence, the improvement of teacher absence, etc. A lot of patting ourselves on the back. And if I understand, you mentioned the perfect attendance program too, and if I understand the way it used to be, just tell me yes, that's the way it still is. You pay out $250 a quarter to anybody that has perfect attendance. Number one, is that correct?
You're asking if that's the way it used to be. I don't know. Mr. Edwards, maybe you can help me with this one?
That is the way it used to be. That is not the way it is currently.
Say again?
That is the way it used to be. That is not the way it is currently.
Okay, could you tell me the way it is currently then?
Currently, they receive two different payouts, one totaling $250 for the year. One payout is of $125, 6 months through the, 5 months through the year, and the other is at the end of the other 5 months.
Okay. Okay, so it's $250 total for the year. Got it. And what level does that stop at? I mean, the administrators included in that?
That is only the Teachers Association.
I looked at the state report, which now includes teacher absence, which we never had that information before. And I realize the report is for 2016 because we don't have the 2017 yet. And if my memory serves me correctly, the state average is 98% attendance, and that comes out to 2.6 days absence on the average in the state, or approximately 1 out of every 69 days. That's the state average. If I look at Brick, we have 10 schools at Brick that are averaging 97% attendance. That comes out to 5.4 days of absence on the average, or 1 absence every 33 days. And if you look at, there's 2 other schools that are at 96% attendance, that comes out to 7.2 days per year, or 1 day every 25. Now, I don't know, when I heard the presentations and everything early on in the meeting, you were talking about what you expect from people when you hire them. And when I was hiring people, I expect them to come to work every day. We had a perfect attendance program, but you had to have perfect attendance for the whole year, not just 10 months. So my question is, these numbers are off the state report. My first question is, if you think these numbers are improved, what were they before this? Or if in fact we're below average, and in some cases way below average, is the program really working? Because I'll tell you right now, what I found when I manage people is you have very dedicated people, probably some of the ones you're giving awards today, they're going to come to work every day no matter what. They're going to be here every day. You're not motivating them to come to work because they got that work ethic. They come here and you reward them an extra $250. Okay. But the other people that are giving you these numbers, they don't care about the $250. This is what you get. My way of thinking, these are not good numbers. In fact, I wouldn't brag about them. You've got 2 schools that are averaging 1 absence every 25 work days. Now, we're only talking about 180 days a year by contract. So I don't understand how you're giving accolades about the attendance when the whole district is below the state average and you got 2 schools that are way below.
Mr. Finelli, I think you're mixing up a couple of statistics. Number one, you're talking about the 15-16 school year in attendance, which I would admit, if it's below average, as you stated, is something we need to improve upon. What we talked about in the budget cycle was the 16-17, or the following school year that we predict what's going to happen. So it's kind of like 2 different terms. I find it interesting that you're comparing attendance, but when we talk about the per pupil expense, you're not interested in comparing that. But that's another issue.
I didn't hear what you just said.
I said I find it interesting that when comparing, you're using comparison data for attendance, but last month when I wanted to talk about comparison data with cost per pupil, you didn't care about that. So I guess the comparison is when you want to use it, but not when you don't want to use it.
I'm sharing information based on my research because you're the one who said at the last meeting that we really improved teacher
What I said
attendance.
was that we're budgeting less in a substitute line item because we're seeing teachers improve their attendance. Yes, absolutely. That's what I said.
You're mentioning the 2017 school year, but we're only 4 months into the year. And I think you did say you're predicting.
Yeah, because we see a trend, absolutely.
Okay. I don't put a lot of faith in your predictions. I'll tell you why. Because you're also predicting that we're going to have an increase in enrollment in the school.
I'm not predicting that. That's a number that comes from the demographer or that came from the business office. So I didn't predict that. No, you're wrong.
When I questioned you last meeting, I said, where did you predicted that. That was in the budget. And you said, I think I got it from the demographic study. That's what
So I didn't predict it. You're right. I said that and I didn't predict it.
You said it.
I said it, and I did not predict it. Somebody else gave us that number.
Okay. The words I heard came out of your mouth.
Without a doubt. Okay. Answered your question.
You predicted it. and you're predicting
okay, whatever you say, Mr. Finelli.
Mr. Finelli, just a point of clarification. I told you it's $125 per period. It's actually $125 for the whole year. They get paid $125 for the year if they have perfect attendance.
Okay, so it's way down.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying that. A couple other quick things. Just at the last meeting, we did a lot of emphasis on the small increase in the school tax levy, whatnot. But I think the fact remains that there was a lot of talk about how hard you worked and how hard you worked and how hard you worked. And it appears that a lot of the work went on the last weekend of the budget cycle because the budget changed from Saturday to Wednesday, as I brought out. I don't give accolades to people that really work hard. I give accolades to people that work smart. Because if you work smart, then the work is a lot easier and you don't have to do a lot of last-minute changes. Bottom line, you people increased and approved let me get the right number, $3.8 million increase in the school budget. $3.8 million more you're spending this year over last year. Regardless of what the tax levy was, that's a big increase in the budget. Another question, I saw on the thing today, just happened to look at the surplus list, and a lot of air conditioners broken being sold out of the Laurelton School. Are we doing anything about getting rid of the Laurelton School?
It's a timely question. We have asked to explore selling the Laurelton School. We want to subdivide that property because we own a piece, the warehouse behind it. So yes, we are exploring about selling that property off.
Okay. You realize how long that building's been empty?
Very long.
Very long, exactly. I noticed that on your executive session today, you're talking about the interim superintendent's contract. Are you going to share any of that information with us?
We didn't discuss it.
Speak into the microphone.
We did not discuss it. It was dropped from the agenda for the executive session.
Okay. The clock is ticking on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Last but not least, no, two things. The park results have been out for about, since I got them on April 6th. Is there going to be a presentation to the public on the park results?
Mr. Gianella?
We have an annual presentation. Usually when do we do that, Ms. McNamara?
We did one in February, Mr. Gilliland.
You're going to do it in February?
We did one in February,
Oh, okay.
and we'll do one again next year when we have the comparison results, yes.
I have the comparison results. They just came out in April.
The New Jersey performance reports did come out a little bit late this year. We provided the information in February based upon the information that we obtained from Pearson Park directly and had analyzed, and I can tell you that the information is pretty similar.
I'm not understanding what you're saying, so let me see if I do understand. These results were published in April. You did a presentation back in February, you said.
Yes.
Was it on these results or last year's results?
We did a comparison between the 2014-15 and 2015-16 school data information from Park Pearson. We did not have the school performance reports at that time because there was a delay in them. We wanted to get some data out to the public concerning the standardized test scores. We also presented information on the NJ Ask and NJBCT at that evening, and we are focusing more on looking at how students are performing, where their weaknesses and strengths are in terms of the standards, and what we're doing to focus our instructional practices to help students better succeed.
So what I think I heard you say or not say is actually the results of this report that I'm holding here.
I don't
And you're
know
not
which
going to do
report-
that?
I
You're not-
don't know which report you're holding. If it is the school performance reports,
Yes.
the data that we used in February is almost identical to what's on those reports, with some exception. There may be a percentage here or there that's slightly different, but again, we were not looking at the exact scores. We were looking at where our weaknesses and our successes were in terms of students meeting academic success in terms of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, and the types of critical work we're doing with our supervisors and our academic coaches to assist in the instructional practices in the classroom to help all students succeed, whether they're taking PARCC or any of the other standardized tests that are out there.
Okay. Did you make the reports that you used for that presentation, were those,
I put the presentation up on the district website, yes.
you put your presentation up on the...
Yes, I did.
Did you put the reports that you used for that?
I can't put those reports up. Those have student names attached to them. So we look at that information utilizing teams of people, the supervisors, the academic coaches, and some of our lead teachers. Every one of our schools has a data team, and we break down the information. And again, our main focus, Mr. Finelli, is to look at where our students are finding challenges and where they're being successful, and trying to target interventions and our professional development so that our teachers can work on those challenges for those students, with those students, and provide the best instructional practice to help them be as successful as possible.
Let me just summarize my feelings, all right?
Sure.
This is what I pay for, right? Your report card, your performance thing, this is what I pay for. If we were really blowing the numbers away, I probably wouldn't have so much to say. I only know what you presented. I don't know what you didn't present or anything else. You presented something, and if you haven't figured this out by now, when you present something that I don't have, I go get it. And then I look at it, then I come back and ask my questions, okay? Now, you presented in February based on what you had, and you made your presentation on weaknesses or what. I went through the whole report. I can tell you every school what they're doing in language arts, what they're doing in math, where the problems are.
And we presented that information.
You presented
Yes,
what you
and I
presented.
just said that based upon the data that I had and what has now come out in the school performance reports, we were very, very on target with that information. Furthermore, and more importantly, the types of analyzing we are doing of our data in this district shows us where our challenges are and where our successes are, and it targets our instruction through our academic coaches and our supervisors to assist our staff in putting in the best instructional practices to help our students succeed for college and career.
I'm not trying to attack you, trust me.
I
noticed your voice went up
I
about...
just wanted to be very, very clear with our path.
Okay. And I noticed your voice went up a couple octaves.
I wanted
What
to
I'm
make
saying,
sure that you heard me.
No, I heard
Emily.
you, trust me. Just hear me, all right?
Yes, sir.
When you do a presentation, I need to be able to look at the reports.
If I could have had the school reports for you at that time, Mr. Finelli, I would. I couldn't get the state to produce them any faster.
Okay. I have the report now. I went through it. I highlighted all the questions that I had, the areas that looking at. I don't really remember what it is that you proposed or whatever. I can tell you that since before you were in your job, the performance in the school district was not that good. And I don't know what, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I don't know what's going on. I can tell you that just looking at this, it seems that from the time that students are in middle school, based on the middle school results, till the time the students get in high school, they lose it. I mean, if you look at the numbers here, the numbers in the low 20s and the low 30s, it looks like they lose it. Now, it hasn't gotten better. I bring this up every year. It still hasn't gotten better. There was a time when I looked at the reports, and before you people were here, I played a little game, right, with the school board. They had their action plan for the year up there. And I said, I want you to follow me along. I'm going to play a trick on you, okay? Let's follow it step by step. So I went through the action report of what they were doing, and I read it. And I said, okay, sounds good. Everybody follow me along. Then I said, oh, by the way, did you figure out the trick I played on you? One person said, yeah, you were reading from last year's action plan, weren't you? Yes, I was. I was reading item by item from last year's action plan to this year's action plan. Nothing changed. Everything was the same, verbatim. And you know the definition, right? Keep doing the same thing, you're not going to get the same results. I understand what you did. Maybe your timeline is wrong. Maybe you should wait 2 months to do it until the report is out, because I want to be able to discuss it. I want to be able to hold it in my hand. I spend more time on this stuff than probably half you people do. But when you do the presentation 2 months before I have the documentation, it doesn't cut it for me.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
I'll make it quick, unfortunately. Somebody took up too much time. The AMCO change order, can I talk about it now?
Yes, Mr. Campbell.
Okay, the change order for 21. Okay, that's with the boilers? Now, the bottom line is the last facility manager dropped the ball. All right? This man here inherited. Now, John, And this, Cabalas, Aaron Weaver for PK, AMCO, and whoever's the custodian, head custodian in this building, you get in a meeting and you get them trained and get it straightened out. That was supposed to be done before these boilers ever got fired up in the first place. That was the whole schematic. But unfortunately, Tommy dropped the ball, more ways than one. And it's come back to haunt this man, me, and other people. Let's get it rectified now before you get the air conditioning going and you got the heating going again. Now, the other thing, this, I freaked, I saw it in the newspaper. The dirty word, referendum. I know you're only thinking about it. It ain't happening here. No. First off, before you even think about referendum, when are we going to see that operational audit? I have board members here that ran on that. And we've asked 3, 4 times, where is the operational audit for the district? Until you get that, don't even think about a referendum. And in addition to that, it's only the board members, because I couldn't afford any more. I have 17 pages of critical issues in each one of the schools and health issues that you're going to look at. And this Band-Aid approach of 12 mil ain't going to do it. You need $45 million, and you're not going to get it in a referendum. You're going to have to go the ESCO route. Now, maybe someday somebody will tell you about that. But it's the only choice you have to get these things done. Now, I'm going to leave you with these. Look them over. Don't throw them in the wastebasket, because they will come back to haunt you big time. You got original equipment in these buildings. Electrical, heating, the RT units. Take it serious. As long as I'm alive, I'll remind you. And the only reason all this crap that went on with board elections and whatnot, the only reason I'm still doing this is because of my grandchildren. You made a big mistake, but I'm going to make sure that you toe the line, you give this gentleman all the help you can, because nobody gave him any help, because nobody knew anything. This isn't funny anymore. I'll finish it up next time. Go home and go to sleep.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell, again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Walter, don't forget this.
Maybe not.
George Scott, I have a couple of issues. I've been at the last several meetings regarding the previous superintendent of schools, Superintendent Uzinski. The first time I was told that you weren't going to answer it because the appeal time wasn't over, and I accepted that. The next meeting, I asked again and was told you weren't going to answer because he might be indicted again. That wasn't satisfactory to me, but I had to accept the answer, and I think it wasn't satisfactory to all taxpayers. That still hasn't happened. Some things that have changed, it's, you know, I read in one of the newspapers that a tort claim has been filed. This simply means that he may or may not file a lawsuit in the future. I'm trying to have the compensatory amount reduced by having him reinstated since he has a valid contract. So my question is, how are you handling this? What is the procedure? And I expect an answer at this particular point since it's 3 meetings later.
I think that answer should come to me as the board attorney. As you've indicated and was widely reported, a tort claim notice has been filed, which is a notice of intent to sue, although the actual lawsuit not filed to date, because by state law there has to be a 6-month waiting period after the filing of the tort claim notice. So based on that, we anticipate litigation may occur in the future. So my recommendation to the board is not to comment on what will be potential litigation. What has also been widely reported and confirmed by counsel for Dr. Uzinski is that the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office is proceeding with the charges. So that matter is still ongoing, and we're going to monitor it and deal with it appropriately at the right time, depending on what happens there.
Okay, so basically what you're saying again is you're anticipating a lawsuit, but no official lawsuit has been filed, number one.
Correct.
Last meeting, you said you anticipated an indictment, but as of yet, there is no indictment that I'm aware of. Is that correct?
As far as I know, that is correct. What we do know is that the matter is proceeding. That's been widely reported and confirmed by the counsel for Dr. Uzinski.
That there is an indictment is what you're saying? Okay, all right.
No, that the matter is proceeding, that the prosecutor's office is pursuing the charges and the matter is ongoing.
Okay, so with that said then, as a taxpayer and personally as a question, if in fact the lawsuit moves forward, I guess I want to know, are we covered, or not we, are you covered by insurance, and what are the limits of our insurance policy to know where we're at?
We do have coverage, varying policies, depending on the nature of the claims, and obviously we won't know until the lawsuit is filed. And once it is, it would be submitted to insurance, and then you find out whether there is coverage, whether there are exclusions, what those coverages are.
Okay.
So I can't answer the question with certainty at this point because it's premature, but.
Right, no, but you answered the part that I want to know. You do have insurance. The only part that I didn't hear you answer is, what are our limits of insurance? What are your limits of insurance?
Well, it varies depending on the different policies.
Okay, what's the maximum?
I'd have to defer to Mr. Edwards on that. I don't know the various limits off the
I
top
would
of my head.
imagine, Mr. Scott, that it's going to determine on what the lawsuit, if it comes and if it's successful, is determined, because the exclusions are particular about the charge itself. So, again, it's premature to tell you what the limits are because we don't know what the charges are.
Right.
So we can't apply that to insurance because we don't know what insurance policy we're going to be doing.
Okay.
So, I mean, like I said, nobody's trying to, you're portraying this, I think, in the past, that people are trying not to answer the question. People are trying to give you an accurate answer, but we have limited information. We know it's an ongoing procedure. We know we have insurance. We know there may be a lawsuit, but we can't give you any definite answers because there's a whole lot of maybes in there.
Okay. It's just, I guess, a little bewildering to me. Now, here we are at a public meeting, Thursday night. I get a phone call, and again, on a Monday, saying, Mr. Scott, your questions aren't going to be answered, from nobody on the board. I mean, it's just ironical that somebody out there would be able to state that on your behalf.
I'm not understanding the question, Mr.
Okay. My question then specifically, I guess, to you, the attorney, or to your law firm, and whatever board members here, was there any affiliation with a Mitch Syme through board members or through your firm in getting to where you are?
No, I don't understand the question. We're hired by the board. Our contract is based on an RFP and a proposal, and that's what it is.
Okay. My question, I guess, through the acting board president, have any of the board members been represented or done any work with Mr. Syme?
Mr. Syme was, he headed our
Could
campaign.
you speak into the microphone?
Sorry, he was a campaign manager.
Okay. How is it that Mr. Syme on a Monday would tell me that you're not going to answer the question on a Thursday?
You would have to ask Mr. Syme that, I don't know.
Well, again, he represented you as a...
No, he was our campaign manager.
Okay.
He doesn't represent us.
Okay. I'll move on to something else. Now that that contract has been voted on for the administrators, I would like to know, if an administrator is married to a district employee, are they able to buy the health care based on the lower salary contribution? If so, was any language put in the contract to prevent that from happening? And how many administrators take advantage of this?
Yes, but I'm going to let Mr. Edwards clarify that so I don't
Yes to
confuse
what?
it. Yeah, yes, there's a couple, we did make changes to that. Mr. Edwards, do you want to?
So make sure I understand the question. You're asking about health benefit waivers, and are there administrators of this district who have spouses employed by the district as well? And the administrators are waiving their coverage where the employee, their spouse has the coverage, so they're basically on their coverage, right? And was there language added to the contract to prohibit that, or prevent that? I'm not really sure I'm following the full question.
Basically, that's the question, yes. If a spouse is making a lower salary, to prevent a loophole where the administrator would then have the spouse take the health benefits at a lower cost.
Right.
And so, Mr. Scott, just out of curiosity, you guessed at that language that was being added to the contract, or someone told you that that language might possibly be in the contract that was being voted on tonight?
No, again, as Mr. Finelli said, salary and benefits are a big
I'm just curious how you would know such a detail in the contract.
I don't know what was in the contract.
As
I
we
didn't see the
discussed, the contract wasn't put out
That's why I asked the question before.
It's really curious how you would know such a detail.
I don't know any detail. I'm just asking.
Well, the question you're asking is specific to a detail that was added to the administrator's contract, and it's curious to me how you would know such a detail prior, as we said to this meeting, at this meeting we've said that there has been no disclosure of that contract to anyone in the public, but yet you seem to know a detail that's been added. It's very curious to me. Anyway, to answer your question, yes, language has been added to the contract to prohibit that from happening in the future. Any employee who has had that benefit prior to July 1st, 2017 will be grandfathered into that clause.
Okay, so they were grandfathered. My last question is something that Mr. Barton stated earlier, where a gymnasium floor is going to be repaired as the result of a broken, I think you said, air conditioning pipe or some type of a pipe. Is that covered by insurance? So,
yes, that was covered by insurance and is being paid by the insurance carrier.
Okay, so that's really no cost to the taxpayer.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wait 1 second. Go ahead. I'm sorry, because we're trying to, Thank you.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. I have a few questions or concerns or just things that I noted. This week, Lanes Mill School had some kind of a CAP presentation. When I heard CAP, I wasn't sure what that meant originally, but I guess it had something to do with child abuse. I was wondering if anybody here has any idea why it was so poorly attended. Was it no advertising, lack of student, teacher, or parent interest, or is there a misunderstanding of what the CAP thing really meant? Maybe you can give us a little more information about the child abuse thing, since I don't think it was out in the public, and there were only 4 parents at that meeting where they had a presenter, and I think the principal was there as well. Are there other meetings like that coming up in other schools? And could you, sort of, what do you expect to achieve at these type of meetings? That was one of the questions, and again, you can answer them all at once, I think it's easier. Now that the budget process is about over, special needs in BRIC. I know some parents want their children mainstreamed, I hear that term all the time. What's the criteria for mainstreaming? What's the cost to taxpayers per child, per year of a non-special needs student in the school system? And what's the cost per child of a mainstream student in the school system? And what's the cost per child of a special needs student in the school systems that's not mainstreamed? And is there a difference between special needs students, classified, and classified students? And if it's different, what's the difference? My next area concerned was, in this whole school system, in the high school, how many students do we have, and how many did we have 10 years ago? And the same thing with kindergarten and first grade. And the reason is, usually the younger grades give us an indication of the growth or the reduction in the future student body. Doesn't always work that way, but many times it does. If we're near, of what we hear, near capacity in housing in BRIC, how are we going to get more students into the thing? Are we having more children that we didn't plan about? That's basically the thing. Is this an answerable concern for the future? And then the end thing is, I know we talked, even mentioned it here, about the wants and the needs of the school system. I want to tell you some wants and needs of our senior citizens. In the last 5 years, there hasn't, and for pensions and Social Security, there has not been an increase. If it was like 0.25% or something like that. And most government agencies, including schools, raise their budgets 2% a year or close to it. Over time, that adds up, 2%, 2%, 2%, when we as taxpayers, a lot in BRIC, senior citizens are not getting any kind of raise. How are we expecting to pay for this? It's got to go on the backs of somebody, and if the seniors aren't going to pay it or can't pay it, are we going to force residents out of the area? That's pretty much what it was. And the second thing is elementary school education. We do a lot of pushing kids into colleges, and right now, college is really a high-priced item, and many of the students that are getting out, when I talk to many of them, there's no jobs to pay back those student loans that they have to take out. That's sort of what it says, and I keep hearing more and more on TV that we should have free education, free college, free this, free that, and most of us in the households knows nothing in life is free. Somebody pays for it, whether it's the parents or whether it's the taxpayer. How do we expect that to happen? Are we getting bang for our buck out of our education system if we're only pushing people into colleges with no real jobs available? Thank you.
Mr. Tutak, if you give Mr. Philippone your email address, I'm sure we could address these for you.
Yeah, if you could send me, I don't know if you can send me.
While he's doing that, Karen.
Well, you've given us 2 pages of questions. We're not going to address them all right here. Thank you, though.
Thanks, Karen Cusinelli. Are the tapes of the meetings being sent over to BTV?
Yes.
They definitely are.
I checked today with Mr. Ellicott, and he said absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I know I had asked about the Honeywell alert system for the meetings for members of the public, but I'm just curious, with regards to the redistricting meetings, why weren't those meetings posted on the district website? Because I did look for them.
Sorry, Mr. Gino, they were, the general meeting, the April 24th meeting was on the district website. The other meetings were on the school, the individual PTA meetings were on the school website.
The April 24th one was on a website?
I believe it was, yes.
Okay. And were the PowerPoint presentations from those meetings posted on the website? Because I couldn't find them.
They were not.
They were not.
It was still a work in progress, Ms. Cusinelli. We still hadn't gotten board approval. We hadn't gone through the...
Well, no, only because they were shown to the public, so I thought they would have...
As a work in progress.
Okay. With regards to the BTASA contract, was there a salary increase, and if so, what was it each year?
Mr. Edwards, can you just go over that, please?
Sure. It's a 3-year contract, and the increases were 2.25% for each year of the contract.
Okay. Was there any change to the health care?
A slight change in the specialty medication copays. There was a new copay added for specialty medications, taking it out of the, taking it out of the 30-day retail supply.
So it was an additional copay level. It wasn't an alteration of the
Correct.
existing ones.
That's correct.
Was there any change to the health care contributions by employees?
No, there was not.
So you left Chapter 78 in its 4-year full implementation?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me one second, Karen. Mr. Edwards, could you please break down the 2.25 and how that works, the increase it's on base, not on?
Correct. It's on their base salary. It's not on the positional stipends.
Right. Was there any change in the vacation, sick, or personal days?
No.
Okay. Were there any other changes from the last contract?
Yes.
And what were they?
Mr. Edwards?
Oh. You want me to go through every change? I mean, there's wording changes. I don't know how detailed you'd want me.
Well, the ones
what
that
are
have
you looking
content to them.
for? The ones that, well, to somebody they all have content. Otherwise, they wouldn't propose them to be changed. So.
Hit the big notes.
Give me the standard ones.
The dates of the agreement were changed from 2013-17 to 2017-20.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I wasn't talking about.
Well, I don't know what you're looking for and what you're not, so I might as well cover them all, I guess. There was a
Use
new-
your judgment, Mr. Edwards. I'm sure you get the gist of what I'm asking.
Well, no, I don't, because I don't feel like that's a fair position to put me in, because now if I don't give you a change at a future meeting, you'll be telling me that I didn't tell you about a change
How
that you
about-
found
how
out
about
about.
this?
So I don't feel that's a fair position.
Why don't you use your
Ms. Cuccinelli,
judgment?
I know the questioning, the line of questioning that you pursue all too often. I'm going to cover them all.
If you'd prefer, you're welcome to give us the, what did you call it, Stephanie, the high notes?
Yeah.
And you can email the contract to me and save me an Oprah request if you'd like.
We can certainly email the contract to you. That's not an issue.
So what were the high notes?
2.25% for 3 years.
On base.
On the base salary. And a lot of wordsmithing. I'm going through now to see if there's any other things that you would consider big changes.
Tuition reimbursement.
Tuition reimbursement, in year 2 and 3 of the contract, the administrators will receive a pool of money of $20,000 for doctoral programs that can be, where no administrator can receive more than 50% of their reimbursement in that given year. And there's a payback on that where they have to work in the district for at least 5 years in order to not pay back any of it. It's scaled back by 20% per year if they leave prior to 5 years. As I indicated to Mr. Scott before, there was a provision added to the waivers where if you're not receiving a waiver as of July 1st, 2017, and you have a spouse in district, and you want to waive coverage, the lower paid spouse has to waive the coverage, not the higher paid spouse, and you are not eligible for a waiver.
But those people who are already receiving it are grandfathered in.
That's correct. The salary guide was eliminated from the contract, and instead of having a salary guide going forward, any new hires will be hired within a range. Ranges were established for all new hires. To give you an example, supervisors' range will be from $96,000 to $135,000. Directors will be from $96,000 to $135,000. Assistant principals, same. Principals, $117,000 to $145,000, and district directors, $107,000 to $145,000.
So all that work, the last contract to reduce the starting salary to try to save the district money has now gone to a range of 96 to 135 for a new hire.
Well, I don't know that's going to waste to, that can be debated because the guide was still there and there was nothing that the previous contract did not prohibit the Board of Education from hiring people on steps higher than step 1. So the beginning step of 96,000 is still within that range of step 1 of the old guide. There's just no more steps within the contract, so there's no more bubbles. The bubbles are all gone.
So if someone
somebody-
is, let's say, a teacher in the district and gets promoted to an administrator, they technically could go from their teaching salary to $135,000 in that range, technically.
That was always the case. That didn't change. There was
Oh,
nothing within the
an
contract that
existing-
said,
An existing employee would go to step whatever as a new administrator?
that's always been the case, Mrs. Cusinelli. There was nothing within the previous contract that said every administrator had to start out on step 1.
What other changes?
I'm scrolling through here.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Edwards, did you tell me how many people were grandfathered in on that program that you mentioned?
I don't have that number.
I
I believe it's like 2, right?
Yeah, I think it's
It was-
2.
It was 2.
Yeah, I'd have to
Two?
research
It
that. I
might
don't
be
have it.
3, but I think it's 2.
Thank you.
I would consider those to be the highlights, Ms. Cusinelli.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, yes.
Hi, my name's Jessica Clayton. I live at 8 Altier Ave in Brick. I came and talked to you a while back about recess, and I gave a whole speech about why it's really important. I just wanted to know where we're at with that. Have we decided to change the policy to be in compliance with the statute, or what's happening?
Well, I know that we were talking about it. I think we will be in compliant with the statute. As far as changing the policy, I don't think we have a policy on it. I know Ms. McNamara was helping or working with the principals on that. We can get you something, though, what we feel that the new process would be. Okay?
All right, because we're not really in compliance right now. We have workroom, and we remove recess as a punishment. So that is not in compliance with the statute, so.
What we did is that we contacted the executive county superintendent to make sure that we were in compliance with the statute as she understood it too. So what we send you will have been approved by the county superintendent.
Okay, great. So who should I give my email to?
Mrs. McNamara, right there.
Mr. Fennell.
Need paper here.
10:30 is my limit. 10:30 is my limit.
I'll be brief because George wants to go home. And Karen asked most of my questions. Last meeting, I asked the question of, did the Daniel Waskell lawsuit get settled yet? And all of you looked at me like I was speaking Greek because nobody knew what that was. I hope now you do. Which leads me to the point of why do we do this? Why are we harping on some stuff? Because we don't want to do that. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to put in an OPA request to get a copy of the contract we're speaking about. And I'm also going to put in an OPA request to get the billings from the attorney that everything involved in the Daniel Waskell lawsuit. And I'm going to come back to you in the next meeting. I'm going to tell you how much money was spent on legal fees. All right? And I think you'll be surprised. Because in these lawsuits, the longer they go on, the only one that makes money out of it is the attorneys. Thank you. As I understand what we have right now, in this thing we don't want to talk about, you have a superintendent who is right now had an indictment thrown out against him. So there's nothing pending. He's like he was before he was arrested, and before, I'm assuming you followed all of the rules of when somebody is arrested, you have to suspend them with pay, and when somebody is indicted, you follow the rules and you don't pay him anymore, and he is suspended. So I'm hoping that you did everything right, and therefore your exposure on those things is, we didn't do anything wrong, so sue us if you want, we didn't do anything wrong. I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but what we have now, and what the attorney explained is, we've got 6 months before that lawsuit can go through. And so far, you've got third-hand information, if I understood correctly, that the attorney for the, whatever you want to call him, the superintendent, told you that they're going to go ahead with an indictment. Well, first of all, you got to get that through the grand jury. And I'm not so sure they would do that based on the past experiences, because they certainly ticked off a judge, right? But the fact of the matter is, they can do that, or they cannot do it, or they can wait 6 months, or whatever. You have the superintendent out there right now whose contract is up next year. You can bring him back into his job, and in a year from now, at the end of the school year, you can fire him without cause. Right? Your contract is up, and we choose not to renew it. End of story. That's all you have to do. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's the way my understanding is. You could let him go. Right now, there's a void there. He's done nothing wrong, and I'm sure he has his needs and his wants. I don't know. He wants $60 million. I don't know. That doesn't have to go through. I don't know if anybody has talked to him and what do you want? Do you want your job back? Whatever. But it's certainly, I'm looking for the easiest and cheapest path out of this situation. And if this goes on, it could go on for 6 years or 10 years, and we have a huge bill. Right now, the clock is ticking because potentially we're paying for 2 superintendents at $175,000 a year, actually $177,000 a year, plus 38% benefits. That's a big bill. It's a big bill. The impression that we get is you're sitting on your hands right now, waiting to see what happens. You don't have to sit on your hands. You don't have to wait to see what happens. I'm not telling you what to do, but you have one contract that's up next month. You know what the extent of the other contract is. It's 1 year. You're not going to do anything? You're going to sit here? You're just going to wait to see what happens? You're going to wait 6 months to see what happens? You really want to do that? You really want to wait 6 months to see a lawsuit, or wait and see if the district attorney does or doesn't do, and if he does a better job than he did the last time? Obviously, he didn't do a very good job. I wouldn't put my faith in him. He withheld information that they should have had. You had to know that. You're the board. You're the ones that tells the school district what to do. You're the one who writes the performance appraisal for the superintendent. This is not his decision at all, right? This is not the attorney's decision at all. This is your decision.
And we understand that, Mr. Finelli.
Say what?
And we understand that, Mr. Finelli, and it is something that is weighing heavy on our minds. But would you suggest, when his attorney has said in the paper that they're expecting another indictment to come down, that we disrupt our educators, our students, by bringing a man back and putting him in a position for possibly a week or two before an indictment comes down, and we would wind up having to pull him out again? Do you think that that's best for the district, too?
It's not a week or two.
Well, you don't know that, and I don't know that, so we're,
You had to understand something. The district attorney had 45 days to decide whether to appeal a decision. During that time, I'm sure he thought about, well, if we don't appeal a decision, should we re-indict him? So it's not something that's going to take a week or two. It's already been 45 days since she ruled on that.
So you think
they had the opportunity.
So you think we should consider that, and not knowing what's going to happen right now, you think we're just sitting on our hands because we're not bringing him back?
No.
What would you recommend?
What I said is, I don't know what you're doing. I know what you're telling us. We have to wait.
We're not telling you anything other than we're trying to wait to see where this is going and trying to make a decision that's in the best interest of the district based on information that we really don't have yet, other than what we're seeing, like you, in the paper. But to disrupt a whole district not knowing, and when his own attorney isn't expecting an indictment, if you read those articles, why would we disrupt the district like that, the children, the educators, to bring someone in and bring him out again? If he got indicted, I mean, so it's not that we're not thinking about it, it's that we're not quite sure. We want to make a decision based on the best interest of the district. And we don't have all the information, so we, like you, are waiting, and we, like you, are frustrated.
Well,
But
I'm glad to hear that you're frustrated, and maybe sitting on your hands was not the right term to use, but you're really not doing anything right now. You're just sitting and waiting. And you said in a week or two you could have an indictment, and my answer was, it was already 45 days when the district attorney had to make a decision. Now the 45 days are up. He didn't appeal the decision that she made, and he also hasn't gone for an indictment. Now, he's got to have all the information that there was, all right? I mean, he has that. I don't think there's any more information available. So he hasn't made a decision yet to do it, but he had all that time to do it. And I don't want this dragging out over 5 years or 6 years or 10 years, where we just keep incurring money. I mean, what happens if it goes 3 years and now you got to pay him all his back pay, so you don't get the lawsuit? You got to pay for 2 people. Well, you can make a decision. You can bring him back. Talk about disrupting the district, all right? And this is something that I raised at a meeting, if you remember.
Oh, I remember.
A short period of time when the interim superintendent was here, the whole organization chart changed. Everything was changed. The district was totally disrupted because everything was changed. And at the meeting I said, why is an interim superintendent disrupting the whole district when he doesn't even know he's going to be here at the end of the year? That was my question, remember that? So you want to talk about disrupting the district? The whole organization chart changed from an interim superintendent. You approved that, not knowing how long he's going to be here, but you don't want to do anything about bringing the old superintendent back.
we're talking about two very different things and two very different timelines.
No, I'm talking about, you mentioned, why would you want to disrupt the district?
Why would I want to disrupt the district if his attorney is saying himself in an article that he sees another indictment coming down? He expects that. He said it twice, 2 articles, okay? We're talking it could be a week or a month. You're comparing it to somebody that was going to be here a year plus. And, you know, it's not the same thing. I'm talking about disrupting something that could be bringing somebody back for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. That's a disruption. Not somebody coming in and putting the house back in order after it was disrupted with everything that was happening initially going through the indictment. 2 very different things.
You realize that his attorney can tell you anything he wants to tell you?
Why he would put that in the paper. I'm only going by what you've read too in the paper. But this is, you know, it's a difficult decision to make. We're not sitting on our hands. It's just, we don't have all the information to make the kind of decision that you want yet. We're still waiting too.
Yeah. Well, let me just finish up. I don't want to beat a dead horse, all right? I spent 25 years in management, all right? Sometimes you have to make a decision when you don't have all the information, but you look at the big picture and you say, okay, we got to make a decision. I'd like to have all the information, but I don't have it. However, if it's the wrong decision, I can always fix it down the road. But right now, we're going from meeting to meeting and to meeting. As Mr. Scott explained, every meeting it's, let's wait, let's wait, let's wait. Let's wait, let's wait, let's wait. Now, and you have to wait 6 months just to find out about the lawsuit. So the next meeting, I come back up here and say, well, the district attorney hasn't done anything yet. How much longer are we going to wait?
And we'll see what additional information we have and maybe we can give you a better answer.
In management school, you know what they teach you? No action is an action in itself. Your action is to take no action.
Now, my action is to make sure that we have, I would want all the information before we could move forward in making an action.
I just hope that
Well,
what I brought up before, you're saying, you know, your action, and I hope you mean.
I do mean that, absolutely. But I'm talking to you directly with me and my train of thought. I haven't had the conversation with, you know, everybody else. We are a team, yes.
It didn't count because the president wasn't here.
Well, that's not what I'm saying now. But thank you, Mr. Finelli. Any other public comment? Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I asked the person who gets the meetings first, right, Mr. Mahoney, he doesn't get them in time possession. When he gets them 2 at a time, and they're not dated, so he doesn't know which meeting is which. That's the information I got from there.
He received one set, both together. He received the last meeting in a separate file, and it was dated. So he did receive them, I guess, right? Just as I said. Okay.
Two of them at the same time, which by that time, almost a month goes by, so the public doesn't see them in a timely fashion. I don't see why you're thinking that.
Okay. I think we're just all tired. So any other public comments? Thank you. No? Does anybody, any board comment? I'm just going to real quick run down.
If I can just hopefully add more issues to it. Mrs. Cantillo, we asked technology why we were sitting here to check to see, is she here?
No, let the record reflect, Ms. Cantillo needed to leave and stepped off the dais
Okay, well,
about 15 minutes ago.
So for further discussion, we did look into it. She has received all the agendas. They weren't open. Now we have to find out why she's not getting them herself. But they were sent, and she did receive them.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm just going to go real quickly. Victoria, do you have anything additional to add at this point? It's running late. People need to get, but I don't want to not give anybody the opportunity to speak.
Well, let me tell you how I feel about this. It doesn't matter how I feel. What matters is that we're all doing a good job for our students and our teachers and our parents. And I think it's beyond reprehensible for members of the public to come up and insult our director of curriculum or our superintendent or business administrator or members of the board. It's beyond reprehensible. It's not what these dedicated professionals deserve, nor is it appropriate. Have a good month.
I'll keep it brief. Last week, we had Teacher Appreciation Week. I just want to thank all of the teachers for their dedication and all the hard work that they put in to the students every day. This week was Nurses Appreciation Week. Well, they had the day. I want to thank the nurses as well, having 2 children that are medical students. My son has been in the nurse's office these last 2 weeks every day, and they've been kind, patient, given medicine, everything that they needed at school. That way they can still be learning, but yet get the medicine that they need. And that's it. Have a great night.
Great. Daisy?
I just too wanted to say that I do appreciate all of our teachers and our staff as well as our nurses. I just want to say best wishes to all of our retirees and congratulations to all of the teachers and the staff that were honored tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Barton?
This is a terrific meeting with recognition of our teachers that have earned Teacher of the Year, or TOY, as they call themselves, because it gets park in a special place. So congratulations to everybody there. Thank you.
We will be, calendar May 29th, we will be closed for Memorial Day. Our next regular meeting is June 1st, here, 7 p.m. And I need a motion and a second for adjournment.
Make that motion.
Second.
Mary?
Mrs. Walrat, before you go, our next meeting's not here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
June 1st meeting's at the beach.
Memorial, I'm sorry, tired.
Oh, I thought we were moving it to the beach.
Oh, are we moving? What?
Just kidding, it's at Brick Memorial, I was
Oh.
kidding, joking.
Like, oh my, please, I'm too tired now. Stop messing with me. I'm sorry, Brick Memorial. I apologize. Yeah. Oh, I didn't get that.
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Ms. Gagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Hattener?
Yes.
Thank you.
Boom.
That was pretty